January 24th. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I just want to put a disclaimer at the beginning of this meeting. I have COVID and I've been sick for a few days, so I'm going to try to last, but I might not be able to, but I'm going to do the best I can. Consent agenda approval. Oh, I'm sorry, Joan. Roll call, please.
Councilor Vieira.
Here.
Councilor Edwards.
Here.
Councilor Janick.
Here.
Councilor Perry.
Present.
Councilor Burk.
Here.
Councilor deMedeiros.
Here.
Councilor Cook.
Here.
All present.
Consent agenda approval of town council minutes, January 10th, 2022. Regular session, Councilor Perry and Councilor Janick abstained, absent. January 10th, 2022. Executive session, Councilor Perry and Councilor Janick abstained, absent. January 4th, 2022. Joint budget workshop, Councilor Perry and Councilor Burk abstained, absent. Acknowledge receipt of minutes from boards and commissions and committees. Recreation Committee 1, Open Space and Land Preservation 1. Acknowledge receipts of Denise, Treasurer Saurette, December 2021 budget and revenue reports. Acknowledge receipts of correspondence, Town and Middletown, Town Council resolution prioritizing quality education for Middletown students, families, and residents. Approval of tax assessor abatement, $950.54. Would any of the councilors like to remove anything from the consent agenda? Councilor Janick,
4D, please.
anyone else?
Town of Middletown.
Yep. Anyone else? I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the rest of agenda except for 4D.
So moved.
Second.
I think motion's been made by Councilor Edwards, seconded by Councilor Perry. All those in favor, Councilor Vieira,
Yes.
Councilor Edwards,
Yes.
Councilor Janick,
Yes.
Councilor Perry,
Yes.
and Councilor Cook.
Yes.
And I'm a yes.
And Councilor Burke, yes.
Oh, Councilor, I'm sorry, Councilor Burke.
That's okay.
Hey, I told you I might not be with it.
I know when I'm not wanted.
4D, Councilor Janick.
So it's really just a comment because I thought it was interesting that the town of Middletown, the town council did this resolution prioritizing quality education for their residents. And where we've always kind of stayed very separate, school and municipal side, I just thought it was really great and heartwarming to see that the town council in Middletown was really looking to make sure that their education is of quality, top quality. They put together some different programs. They've looked at some issues, out of school programs where some of their residents are having difficulty finding programs in the summer and school vacation before and after school for their students. So they're looking at putting together some kind of a program and just really taking the council and the schools and making sure that they really join together and work together, commit together to prioritize education in their town. And I just thought it was really nice to see that. And I would not be opposed to doing that in our town as a comment.
Any comments from the council?
Yes.
Did someone say yes?
Yes. So, well, I appreciate that. I take a little bit different perspective, partly because it's not clear whether or not they had conversations before they did this with the school committee. And I know in some other locations where this has been done, it was seen as an effort by the town side of government to overtake some of the educational pieces. Not saying that that's what this is. I have no idea. On the flip side, when I lived in Milford, we had a community use program, which was managed jointly through the town and the schools. And it opened up the schools to the public and to private, nonprofits and the like, to make use of school facilities for a variety of activities. The local theater group used them, youth activities as well as adult activities. And then there was a fee that was involved with it, which helped make it self-perpetuating. And actually, Dr. Sanchioni is very familiar with it because I learned this after the fact. He is from Milford and grew up there, and is friendly with the fellow who was the head of that when I lived there. So I'm not saying it's a bad idea, just I think if we would consider anything like that, I'd want to have a more in-depth conversation with the schools.
Totally agree.
Any other comments? Okay, so I'd like to entertain a motion to approve 4D, acknowledge receipt of correspondence from the town of Middletown, Town Council resolution prioritizing quality education for Middletown students, families, and residents.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilor Janick, seconded by Councilor Perry. All those in favor, Councilor Vieira,
Yes.
Councilor Edwards,
Yes.
Councilor Janick,
Yes.
Councilor Perry,
Yes.
Councilor Burke, I remembered you this time,
Yes.
and Councilor Cook,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Public comments regarding a council agenda item or other town business. Do we have any comments in the audience? Raise your hand if you do. All right, moving on. Public presentation, Mary Sahady, Hague, Sahady and Company, PC, presentation of audit report, 6/30/2021. Mary, are you with us?
No.
There's a dog.
Josiana's here, so I'm gonna let her in.
Can you let her in?
I am, hang on a second. Come, I can't get her in.
I might be able to. Who am I trying to let in?
Josiane,
Okay. I let her in.
how come I can't do it?
I don't know, but I can do it. So
You in Little Compton? That could be it.
that could be it because you're in Little Compton. So something just flashed on my panel that I am now the host.
That's why.
I saw that.
You were supposed to be made the co-host, so we can both do it. That's all right.
I always like doing everything, so it's fine.
Hi, can you guys-
Welcome.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes,
Yep.
we can.
Hi, all right. I'm going to start the presentation for the audit. First of all, I wanted to start by thanking Denise and Amy and their staff for such a smooth audit. In front of you is the annual financial report for FY21. This report contains 5 sections. I'll try to go as quick as I can, like those 5 sections. On page 5 is the independent audits report. Tiverton received a clean or unmodified report, which means there were no findings. It is also important to note that no management letter comment was issued this year. Beginning on page 8 is the management discussion and analysis, also known as the MD&A, which serves as an overview of the financial statements as a whole. The MD&A describes the government-wide financial statements and each of the fund statements along with portraying a comparative condensed analysis of the town's net position in a changing net position. If you turn to page 18, we will begin with the government-wide statements. The government-wide financial statements provide readers with a broad overview in a manner that is similar to a private sector business. It is presented on a accrued basis of accounting. The government-wide financial statements include two statements, the statements of net position and the statements of activities. Within these statements, you have your governmental activities and your business type activities. Within the statements of net position, the total liabilities and the deferred inflow of resources of the town exceeded its assets and the deferred outflows of resources at fiscal year ended June 30 in a net deficit of 9.8 million, presented as net position. At year end, the town had a deficit in governmental activities unrestricted net position in the amount of 45.2 million and a surplus of 446,000 in business type activities. The town total net position increased by 2.2 million from the amount reported in fiscal year 2020. The town of Tiverton's OPEB and pension obligations significantly impacts the government-wide financial results. The most recent valuation of the town's OPEB obligation as of June 30, 2021, estimated that the total OPEB liability of the town increased by 312,000 from 26.2 million to 26.5 million. Net pension liability decreased by 2.9 million from 34.2 million to 31.3 million. This decrease was largely a result of the changes of benefit terms and changes in assumptions. More information about the plans can be found in the notes and also the required supplemental information portion of the financial statement. Continue on to page 20 and 21. You'll see the statements of activities. During the fiscal year, the town revenues increased by 19.51%. The town's largest source of revenues were property taxes of 39.1 million, state aid to town of 2.9 million, and capital grants and contributions of 3 million. Property taxes increased by 8.1 million from the previous year. State aid increased by 2 million, and capital grants and contributions increased by 2 million. Expenses decreased by 1.42% from previous year. The town's expenses cover a range of services. The largest expense was for the school of 38.1 million, general government of 8.4 million, public safety of 7 million, and public works of 4.6 million. Comparative data on these revenues and expenses is itemized in the reporting of changes in that position on page 13, if you want to see more detail on it. On page 22, begins the fund financial statements. Included in the governmental funds are three major funds, which are the general fund, landfill closure, and school unrestricted. Also included in the governmental funds are other non-major funds. Sorry about that. No. Sorry about that. At the end of the fiscal year, the town governmental funds reported a combined ending fund balance of 21.6 million. The unassigned fund balance represents an amount equal to 3.2 million. The unassigned fund balance are funds that can be used at the town's discretion. The remainder of the fund balance is broken down into four other categories: your non-spendable, restricted, committed, and assigned. Non-spendable fund balance consists of 599,000, which represents the amounts of prepaid expenditures. Your restricted fund balance of 3.6 million are amounts restricted for a specific purpose. Your committed fund balance of 13.6 million represents amounts that are committed for a specific purpose per town council ordinance. and your assigned fund balance of $635,000 are constrained by the town's intent to use for a specific purpose. You can see a breakdown of the fund balances on the notes to the financial statements on page 87. The total general fund balance is $5.2 million. It includes a non-spendable fund balance of $599,000, a committed balance of $660,000, an assigned fund balance of $451,000, and the remaining amount is unassigned. The landfill closure ended with a fund balance of $9.6 million. This amount is committed to the closure and post-closure of the landfill. The school unrestricted ended with a fund balance of $1 million. This amount is committed to education purpose. On page 24 is the statements of revenue, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. Net change in fund balance as a whole was $4.3 million, resulting in a fund balance of $21.6 million. Your proprietary funds starts on page 26. The statement of net position includes the same information as the business type activities in the government-wide funds. The proprietary funds include the land acquisition, the cafeteria funds, and early risers. Land acquisition net position decreased by $12,000. The cafeteria fund net position decreased by $27,000, and early risers net position increased by $2,644. All proprietary funds have a positive net position at fiscal year end. On pages 30 and 31, you'll see the statement of fiduciary net position and statements of changes in fiduciary net position. These funds include your pension and your OPEB, along with any custodial funds and a private purpose trust funds. Your employee benefit trust fund, which includes the OPEB and police pension, ended with a fund balance of $19.5 million. Your private purpose trust fund ended with a fund balance of $518,000, and your custodial funds ended with a fund balance of $492,000. The OPEB trust is funded at 2.58% for the town and 7.09% for the school. The police pension is funded at 89.98%. The next section is the notes to the financial statement, which serves as a detailed representation of the numbers presented on the face of the financial statement. Following the notes, you'll see the required supplementary information, which is a more detailed schedule that includes details notes relating to OPEB, pension, and a budget to actual. The budget to actual begins on page 90. Overall, the general fund revenues and transfers were under budget by $1.3 million. The focal points that contributed to favorable results are intergovernmental revenues of $888,000 and license permits and fee of $230,000. Expenditures also had a favorable results on the general government of $303,000, finance administration of $437,000, and public safety of $232,000. A more detailed information on revenues and expenditures can be found on pages 120 to 129 of the supplementary information. The supplemental information also goes into detail about the non-major governmental funds. And lastly, on page 179 is the auditor's report on internal controls. This report would indicate whether there are any material misstatements or deficiencies in internal controls. At this time, there are no reports of any material weakness or significant deficiencies. Thank you. Any questions?
Any questions from the council? Any comments? All right. All
Still
right,
trying to
Josie,
clear
yeah.
my head.
Well,
I'm still trying to clear my head here.
I know. Everybody, any questions? Councilor Vieira, you are, yeah, go ahead.
Hi, good evening. Thank you. Just one question, going to page 8, the beginning of the book.
Yep.
Halfway down, fund highlights,
Yes.
bullet number 1. So did the town finish of this amount 3.499 in the general fund? So did the town end up with 3,499,000 in the general fund last year?
Yeah, in FY 21, yes, on an unassigned fund balance.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. And
Anyone else? All right, well, thank you, Josiana.
well, thank you. You have a great night.
You too.
Thanks.
Number 7, Amicable Church, 3736 Main Road, requesting special event permit for annual Amicable Farmcoast 5K run walk on Saturday, April 2nd, 2022, 9 to 11, Neck Road and Seapowet Avenue. Any, Sandra, I see you. Hi, Sandra.
Hi, how are you?
Very good, thank you. Want to tell us a little bit about this?
Yes, I'm representing Amicable Church, and we're looking for a special event permit to hold our annual 5K run and walk at Tiverton Four Corners. It's an out and back race using the town roads, starting at Neck Road and turns onto Seapowet Ave. We start set up behind Groundswell and Tiffany Pays about 7 a.m. race day. The race starts at 9 and we are cleared out of the area by 11 a.m. We expect a turnout of between 150, 200 people. The meeting house and Gray's Ice Cream has agreed that we can use their parking space for additional parking. And I know that the race director, Rika Starrett, has made arrangements with both the Tiverton Police and Fire Department's day of event.
Thank you. I just let Patrick in. Patrick, do you hear us?
Yes, ma'am.
So have you reviewed this?
I have not. I've been out of the office last week, but I'll be sure to work with their committee to make sure that all the safety issues are met.
And we've done this before.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Councilor Perry. You're on mute, Joe.
Yeah, that was my question, Madam President. I think this is something they've done in the past. I believe
Yes, they have.
so. Okay, that was my question. I thought it was something they'd done in the past. Thank
Yeah, I
you.
just wanted to make sure, because Patrick does have a big role in this, because they have to stop traffic, I believe,
Yeah.
here and there, and approve the route. So I'm sure he'll look at it. And Sandra, is this the same route you've always done?
Yes, it's the same route, and this is our, I think, 9th year doing it.
Oh, yeah, it's as long as I've been here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions from the audience? From the council? All right, I'd like to entertain a motion to
It's
approve.
great.
What?
No, I'm saying it's in a very limited area. It's a small time frame. Doing it for almost. So,
Yeah, I agree. So I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the annual Amicable Farmcoast 5K run walk on Saturday, April 2nd, 2022, from 9 to 11.
So moved.
Second,
Motion's been made by Councilor Perry, second by Councilor Vieira. Any other comment?
It's just one comment. It's the request says 7 to 11. But part of that's going to be setting up and all that, I'm sure.
I believe the actual event is 9 to 11. Is that true, Sandra?
Yes, the actual event's 9 to 11. Setup does start at 7 a.m.
Okay. Any other comment? So I have a motion in a second. All those in favor, Councilor Vieira,
Yes.
Councilor Edwards,
Yes.
Councilor Janick,
Yes,
Councilor Burke,
Yes.
Councilor Perry,
Yes.
Councilor Cook,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Good luck, Sandra.
Thank you very much.
Patrick, I don't know how to take you out of here, so I'm keeping you in.
Okay.
better.
At least I got you in here. All right, appointments and resignations. This is the Solar Ordinance Advisory Committee. There's 4 public members and 4 vacancies. David Cotton of 4100 Main Road, requests appointment. Patricia Hilton, 99 Peaceful Way, requests appointment. EDC Representative Renee Jones, 161 Highland Road, as recommended by the EDC. Mr. Cotton, I know you're here, and I'm going to bring you in. Is he in?
You brought Amy in.
Amy
brought
Roderick
Amy in.
again.
Oh, well, goodbye, Amy, but I don't know how to.
Yeah, but if you let her out, she might be out.
I
for
might
good if
get
you
rid of
don't know
her
how to do it.
completely.
Yeah.
All right. I think Chris should be the administrator from now on.
So
You can
Denise-
probably make him co-host. You can
Just
him
make me a
co-host.
co-host or something.
So
Um,
if the 3 dots on my picture, you
Yeah.
can make me a co-host and I can fix these issues.
You see
All right.
it?
Yep, I see it. I'm working on it.
That's what I meant to do with you. That's all right. I made you the host, so it's,
All right, now you're the co-host.
okay, so I can help you deal with these things. So.
Okay, thank you. It's the first time I've been the real host. All right, welcome, Mr. Khan, sorry for the technical thing I'm going through.
No, not a problem. I avoid being the host in all these Zooms that I have. So now I'm
I'm usually the
sympathetic to you.
co-host, but Chris does all the work.
Co-host is fine.
So, Mr. Cotton, just tell us why you would like to be on the Solar Advisory Committee. We've heard you talk in the past regarding this.
Well, first off, thank you for giving me the time, and it was a pleasure to speak with you before, and I'm grateful to have the chance to apply. I'm interested in the issue for a variety of reasons. I think you've heard some of them based on the conversations or the comments that I've made in front of the council. I think the way we use our land going forward, just generally, is hugely important. Of course, solar is a critical issue for us as we try to move away from fossil fuels for climate change reasons and for health reasons and the like. Protecting our forests and the like, and wildlife conservation issues are implied here. And I think that this raises a broad, I'll call it a broad category of issues in terms of sustainability, which is important to our community. So I haven't gotten very involved in the past on issues, but this is one I think raises a number of things that are important. And I'd be grateful to have the chance to make a contribution. I also must add that, I have written legislation and not written any ordinances, but it's not terribly different from some of the other things that I've done. So I feel like I could also make a contribution in terms of just assisting with the structure of the ordinance and maybe even some of the legal issues, as I am a lawyer. But you've got Mike there, and I don't think you really need me to lawyer.
So we'll take any help we can get.
I was just going to
That's
say
the way
that
I always-
Mike never has a problem with people helping, so.
Well, I'm cheap. I'm pro bono, so I pay an hourly rate. So
Cheap is good.
anyway, exactly. Not, in fact, better than cheap. I don't cost a thing.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Cotton? Councilor Burke?
Yeah, just thank you, David, for stepping forward for
thank
one
you.
thing. And certainly you have a wealth of experience in this area. My simple question is, because some other issues came up in the public meeting we had regarding this. you understand that the focus of this is on developing a zoning ordinance for solar related issues, not on addressing other environmental energy issues.
Yes, I do. And all I meant by mentioning those things, Councilman, was that I think some of those other issues necessarily have a connection to the solar ordinance that we're talking and contemplating. That's all I meant to say with regard to that.
No, I appreciate that. Thanks.
Any other questions from the council? Councilor Janick?
Just a comment. I'm so delighted that you applied to this, Mr. Cardin, because I've so enjoyed hearing you speak. I think it's a passion of yours, and I think that you can bring so much to this topic. And thank you so much for reaching out.
Yeah, thank you for those comments. And I want to just reiterate what I said before. You know, you all are doing the really hard work here, and I know how hard it is. So whatever little I can contribute to help you through these issues and maybe make a contribution to the way you, you know, what's presented to you so that you have the flexibility you need, that's a privilege. So thank you very much for your comments.
Any other councilors at this time? Right, so I see Chris let Trish Hilton in.
Shall I
Welcome,
stay
Trish.
or shall I go?
Yes,
What's
no, you
happening?
stay because we're gonna vote. So
Okay, very
why
good.
don't you stay?
All right.
Hi, Trish.
Good evening.
Hey, Trish.
We're gonna ask the same question. Why did you apply for this position?
Well, I've had a long-term interest in this. You know, I've been following it as a counselor for probably 4 years. And, you know, my background prior to joining the council was really in conservation. So I have a fair amount of experience in land use and zoning. And I think that this is a really important issue because you really only have one chance to do it right. And we know that. We learned that lesson the last time when we did this and enacted an ordinance and then had several applications only to find out that, you know, it was the law of unintended consequences and it wasn't at all what we were expecting and really what we wanted. So I think that a good amount of time has passed. A number of other communities have already tackled this with more sophisticated lens. There's also a great deal of help available from, you know, DEM, from the University of Rhode Island, from GrowSmart. So I thought this might be a place where I could be helpful and useful and participate in bringing something to the council that might suit the community as a whole.
Thank you. Any questions for Trish? Mike?
Trish, thank you as well for coming out of this part of your retirement anyway. And giving back again to our community. I'm going to ask you the same question as David. I will preface that I appreciate the brief conversation you and I had after that public meeting. And you talked about some of the other ways, kind of more progressive, if you will, I guess, ways that other communities are tackling this issue and the way they're addressing it. But my question is and I think I know the answer, but you understand that this is, you know, focused on developing that solar zoning ordinance specifically?
Yes.
Great, thanks. I thought I had another thought for you at least. And well, I'll put a thought in here and the committee goes forward. You know, I know that there are some folks, very few, who have come to us who would like kind of wide open opportunities and some folks who would like, you know, very, very, very restrictive opportunities. So I'm hopeful that this committee will find a balance.
Any other questions? Councilor Edwards, I saw your hand up.
I don't have a question. I have a comment. So we're very fortunate that Trish has come out of retirement to help us out with this. She has a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge. She knows the town. She knows how the place operates. She happens when I have a question about zoning and building and the like, she's the person I call. And I always have a good conversation with her. And I think the caliber of Trish and David on this committee is, it's not going to make it, it's not going to be easy, but it's going to be a lot easier. And we'll end up with a good product.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councilor Janick?
I just say thank you, Trish, for coming out, because you are so right. We have one shot at this. And to bring in the most knowledgeable and passionate people about solar, I think can only be positive for our town. So thank you for coming out of retirement.
Everyone knows how I feel about Trish. I've been trying to get her out of retirement to join several things in the past year. I've always enjoyed working with her, and her knowledge is unbelievable. I also call her when I have questions about zoning and things alike. So thank you, Trish. Joe?
Yeah, you can thank me. I told her it was a 7-figure position, all zeros. I got it to come out when I told her 7 figures.
Thanks, Joe.
You didn't
She's
notice that.
smarter than that, and you know that.
You
Thank you,
didn't
Trish.
notice that in the budget, did you?
Nope. Yeah, thank you, Trish. That's you're a big asset to this.
Well, I certainly hope now after all this that I won't disappoint you, but
You will
I
not.
think that if Mr. Cardin and I are lucky enough to be on the committee with a few other people, I hope that we'll be able to come up with something that, as I said, the council and the community can embrace.
I have something to say.
Go ahead, Donna.
Yeah, I was just hoping that this committee is very cognizant of us getting stuck with the bill if they go bankrupt, or we really need to protect the town from that. I think there was an article also, and I think it was Jay Edwards that sent it out, that there's 2 ways that they can get away with that, because they separate themselves into 2 different entities. So then it's difficult to go after them. So I was hoping that we protect the town in every single way we can, that doesn't happen through bankruptcies and we're stuck with all this toxic cleanup.
Thanks, Donna.
Yeah.
Councilor Perry?
Yes, Madam President. I have some information from Stoughton and Dartmouth, who both have solar parks. And if Trish and Mr. Cardin would like that information, I can see that I forward that to them.
That would be great.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so my next question is, Renee, did we put that we want, I'm sorry if I don't remember this.
Yes,
Did we put an EDC representative?
yes.
Okay, thanks, Mike.
Yeah.
I don't have it in front of me. So Renee, hi, Renee.
Oh.
So the EDC, I didn't know if, it's not that I don't want you on it. I didn't know if we were putting you on it as a public member or if it was an EDC appointment. I don't remember. My mind's a little fuzzy this evening. So the
It's an
EDC,
EDC.
right, the
Denise.
EDC recommended you. Okay. Does anyone have any questions for Renee? We all know Renee and how involved she is with economic development. And I think it's a good choice that they picked you, Renee.
Actually picked me as they stepped back, but anyway.
What did you say?
No, I'm not repeating it. Thank you very much.
Did you go to the bathroom?
I got it.
Voluntold.
You volunteered for it, or either that you went to the bathroom and they volunteered you, because that happens quite
Something
often.
like that. I am
any
interested in it, though. No, I am interested in it. I think when we were going through that in the beginning, a few months ago, I got interested in it and talked to Jay about it. And, I think I've spoken to a number of planners in different towns to just sort of get an idea of what they've been doing in different parts of Rhode Island. I mean, this certainly is a topic that has, over the past few years, solar energy itself has evolved, and what's going into it has evolved, and what we've learned from past experiences has evolved. So I'm interested in helping out.
Thank you. Any questions for Renee or comments? Councilor Burke?
Same question, Renee. I don't know if you were in when I asked it of
Yeah, I heard.
David and Trish. So you understand that the focus of this is to develop a solar zoning ordinance?
Correct.
Thanks.
Okay, so we wanted 4 public members. We have 2. I think there's other, I know one in particular that wanted to join, but right now we have 2. So I would like to entertain a motion to waive our policy and appoint this evening.
So moved.
Motion been made by Councilor Edwards, seconded by Councilor Janick. Councilor Vieira.
Oh,
Yes.
Some discussion first. Madam
Sure, I'm
President.
sorry, Mike.
Just one comment. When we discussed creating this committee, we had really emphasized the importance of getting geographic diversity within the town of the members. So I certainly am not going to step in the way of appointing these 3 fine members, but I am hopeful that we are able to fulfill that desire to have folks, because I know, Renee lives in the Highland Road area, and David and Trish live in the southern end of town. So I'm hopeful we can have some people from the northern end of town and eastern end of town be involved.
Any other comments before I take a vote? Now, this is to waive, but for the 4 public members, and then we'll vote to appoint Renee. So Councilor Vieira,
Yes.
Councilor Edwards,
Yes.
Councilor Janick,
Yes.
Councilor Burke,
Yes.
Councilor Perry,
Yes.
Councilor Cook,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. I'd like to entertain a motion for appointment.
So moved.
Entertain a motion
David
to,
Cotton and Patricia Hilton. And
So
I'll
moved.
do Renee separate, right?
You could do it all at once if you want to.
I
So moved,
can,
Councilor
okay,
Perry.
and also Renee Jones. So who so moved me? I didn't,
So moved,
There.
Councilor Perry.
okay,
Oh, okay.
and who seconded it? Okay, so motion's been made by Councilor Perry, seconded by Councilor Janick. Any further discussion? Oh, yes, Bill?
the only thing is a typo on the agenda. Looks like Mr. Carden, Carden, just for the website or whatever we use that for. His application is Carden, so just that point of reference.
Thanks, Bill. Any other comment? All those in favor, Councilor Vieira,
Yes.
Councilor Edwards,
Yes.
Councilor Janick, Councilor Burke,
Yes.
Councilor Perry,
Yes.
Councilor Cook,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Welcome aboard, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Great.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right.
Take
the
care.
next-
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, David. The next one is Town Farm, that's Renovation Committee, 9-member board, 2 vacancies. Ryan C. Petra, 43 Kaufman Road, request appointment to expire 6/30/2023. Is Ryan in the audience? I don't think so. All right, so what is your pleasure, council? Do you want to appoint him? We do have a resume here.
Madam President,
Yes.
if it was a reappointment, I would say yes, but not knowing the gentleman, I'd prefer that he appear before us so we can at least see who he is and
Okay,
ask any questions.
Can I just also say that there was a letter submitted by Stu Gilfillan recommending Ryan?
Yep.
A letter came in that Joan had sent to us this afternoon.
I agree with Joe. The least they could do is show up when they're
he
just.
might not
new.
have been notified he had to. I'm
No,
not
but
sure.
it leaves, maybe Joan could check and,
Okay,
anyway.
so is everyone in agreement that that Joan will contact Ryan and ask him to come to our next meeting?
So
Is
moved.
that okay with everyone? Okay,
Yeah.
so I'd like to entertain a motion to table this appointment until our next meeting.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilor Cook, seconded by Councilor Perry. Any further discussion? All those in favor, Councilor Vieira,
Yes.
Councilor Edwards,
Yes.
Councilor Janick,
Yes.
Councilor Burke,
Yes.
Councilor Cook,
Yes.
Councilor Perry,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Moving on, Cemetery Commission, 5-member board, 1 vacancy, Mark Disroja, 589 Hancock Street, request appointment to expire 4/15/2024. I'm not sure Mark is here either.
It's not.
Yeah, I would,
Okay.
Madam President, I would request the same thing because it's a new appointment. I'd really like to either talk to the gentleman or see him and, before I do any appointing.
There's
All
a
right,
reappointment on here.
Well, it's not a
No.
reappointment because he was
No, it's
never
an
on the.
Oh, I'm
appointment.
sorry. I'm
It's a
wrong.
new
Oh, it's an
one.
appointment. So Joe, is that a motion to table?
Yes.
And I'll second.
Okay, so I have a motion from Councilor Perry to table the appointment for Cemetery Commission. And seconded by Councilor Vieira. I just want to ask the clerk that we notify both these gentlemen to appear next meeting. Any further discussion? All those in favor, Councilor Vieira,
Yes.
Councilor Edwards,
Yes.
Councilor Janick.
Yes.
Councilor Burke,
Yes.
who am I missing? Councilor Perry
Yes.
and Councilor Cook.
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Thank you. Open Space Land Preservation Commission, 9-member board, 1 vacancy, Corey Caroline P. Alexander, 299 Nantucket Road. Request appointment to expire 4/15/2024.
Also not there either.
I'm wondering if we notified any of these.
I think Joan did.
We
Yeah.
did.
All right, well, maybe express that we're not appointing unless we interview.
Yep.
Do
We'll follow
I-
up.
do I have a motion to table this?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilor Perry, second by Councilor Janick. Any further discussion? All those in favor, Councilor Vieira,
Yes.
Councilor Edwards,
Yes.
Councilor Janick,
Yes.
Councilor Burke,
Yes.
Councilor Perry,
Yes.
Councilor Cook,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. General business, Brian James, Open Space Commission. I know Brian's here. Discussion and possible vote on authorization to apply for grant from the Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank, not to exceed 250K to implement plans for Fogland. Welcome, Brian.
You.
You can,
China, here we go.
There we
there
go.
you are, Brian.
Yep.
All right, tell us a little bit about, tell us
Well-
a bit about this.
As I think you're aware, we've been working since 2020 with an engineering firm to develop these plans with the goal of improving the overall resiliency of that area. And what initially began as a focus on stormwater management and continued dune enhancement has expanded as we've looked at the issues there, and now includes some marsh restoration work, additional drainage for the area on the south side of 3 Rod Way, and demolition and replacement of the ticket booth that's down there. It's usually standing in a pond. So we anticipate the design process to be concluded very quickly. However, we needed to move forward at this point in order to meet the deadlines for grant opportunity. In the fall, Tiverton participated in a broad workshop opportunity from the Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank that completed their MRP program. And the completion of that allowed us to be a candidate for the next round of what they refer to as their action grants. And they have sent out the call for grant applications, and those are all due in early February. So in order to come before you, we are still finalizing some of the numbers and exact plans, but I'm confident that the budget that was included most recently is something we can work with. The total amount of the project right now stands as high as 269,000 and change. That number would include a 30% contingency, which the engineers recommended just given current pricing competition. They came up with a range from 239 to 269. The 239 represents 15% contingency, which would be more standard. So our number should fall somewhere in between there. And this particular grant program requires a 25% local match. And of that 25%, which would be 67,261 based on the higher number, half can be in-kind services. And in the budget that I included, a number of items were pulled out as potential in-kind services that actually exceeded that half of that number. So half could be in-kind, that would be 33,000. And we identified at least 40,000, over 40,000 worth of work that could be done in kind. And the director of DPW has agreed that all of those were reasonable items for his department to complete. This means Tiverton then would need to commit on the other side to contributing cash as part of that match. So half that amount, the other 33,631 would need to be cash. That can come from any materials that we purchase as part of this program, but also the Recreation Commission has indicated that they could earmark up to $6,000 worth of funds in their current budget. Also, Save the Bay has applied for a grant from Coastal Resources towards the marsh restoration, and they're asking for $14,000 for that project. We would expect that to be approved and should hear within about a month. Expectation for approval is based on the fact that this whole process started with CRMC awarding us an $18,000 grant for the design. So that would reduce any cash requirements to 13,631 using exact numbers. They're not written in stone at this point, though. And so we're asking for support to apply for the grant and asking if we do that, that the town can commit to the 25% local match. I'd also point out that the engineering drawings and whatnot that I submitted as part of this request are a mid-December version, and some things have changed since then. Most of the elements are pretty much the same, but we're continuing to tweak that.
So what you're asking is support that we come up with $13,000 about if everything works out.
Yes, our commitment would be for the 67,261 with the expectation that we can provide half of that in-kind services, right, and then 20,000 of the cash match in other grant funds or already budgeted funds.
And also the recreation. So it'd be 13,000 and In the past, we've taken that from council contingency, which there is money in there for that. Okay, Councilor Perry has his hand up, and I think I'm calling you Councilor now, Chris. I think Chris had his hand up. So Councilor Perry, you're first.
Yes, Madam President. Mr. James brought this before the Recreation Committee approximately 6-8 weeks ago. I wholeheartedly support this program. I think they did a lot of work, and I totally support them, and I think we should push this to go through. Thank you.
Chris?
So I just want to be clear that of the 67,000, 50% can be done in kind, which I think we've already earmarked. So the real outlay is really 33,600. If the CRMC Save the Bay grant doesn't come through, and I know Recreation has to go through their accounts to ensure that they could come up with those kind of funds. But if none of it could be made up totally, we'd be looking at 33,600. I don't want that to be lost. That
Okay.
I think that that's our obligation. But to finish this project that's been ongoing for years, it's a very high priority project for CRMC, Save the Bay, and the town to rectify some of these issues. I do agree that this is a very worthwhile project, and the grant that we would get through the infrastructure bank is a very good deal on behalf of the town. And Brian and the entire MRP program team that put together to help get this off the ground did a pretty good job of zeroing in specifically to projects that would be shovel ready, and this is shovel ready.
Councilor Burke?
Thank you, Madam President. And I too was at the meeting that Joe was at that Brian presented, and you certainly have done a hell of a lot of work on this. And so thank you for that. I do have a process question, and it's more for our education around grants. When was this RFP put out?
Probably about 4 weeks ago. It was delayed. It was later than they had hoped.
So roughly the end of December?
Yes, I
Mid-December?
mean, I'd have to check to see
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, that's okay. And your due date is?
February 11th is the deadline.
So it's roughly a 6-week turnaround time for you to do a heck of a lot of work, especially knowing that you had a lot done already, but you still had a lot more to do, right?
Yeah, and we wanted
Yeah.
to finalize it as much as possible.
Yep. Okay.
Before coming to you.
Yep. Absolutely. Thanks. That's all.
So just to help clarify that a little bit, the infrastructure bank and trying to think of the name of the agency, Brian, that helped us through to do the MRP process. Trying to think who they are.
At Nature Conservancy.
The Nature Conservancy. In order to get in the round of funding that's available now, we had to pre-plan this and go through this. We didn't even know if we were going to be available to be picked to be.
Right.
So, but without doing all that work, we wouldn't be where we are today. So.
Yeah, my questions were more around the time, from the time it was announced that the funds were available to the time that you have to have it submitted.
Okay.
That's all.
Councilor Edwards?
Thanks, Brian. So we know of no reason why we could not utilize some of the American Recovery Funds if we needed to.
So I can answer that. The guidance on the American Recovery monies are changing rapidly.
That's why I
And
asked that.
it's actually for a good thing, because originally there was a formulary that included lost revenue, that any lost revenue that could be tabulated, accounted for, and justifiable, you could utilize any of the American Recovery monies for any governmental purpose without seeking approvals. You could just do it. There's been so much controversy around the country with every city and town going through fits of trying to figure out what their lost revenues were. While we were in pretty good shape based on statewide with a $3.2 million loss, we were going to have public hearings on the remainder. The federal government changed the entire process of this, that every city and town, regardless of how small you are, can utilize up to your allocation to $10 million for any governmental purpose. So there is no more justification. There's no public hearings that are needed. This is a council decision on how these monies are to be spent. as long as it's an appropriate governmental purpose. So
Great.
that guidance just changed within the last 3 weeks.
That was a good ask, Jay.
Yeah, it was, because we were going through fits trying to figure out how to justify whether it was broadband, sewer, public works, water. It was,
Yeah.
there were certain buckets of money that we could only avail ourselves to. Now we can use all of the $4.7 million for any governmental purpose.
So
Great news.
how much money is left in that American Recovery Program, so it could be used
All of it,
probably?
all of it, Donna, all 4.7 million. Although I should clarify that.
No,
Half of it comes in this year or came in, the other half will come in next fiscal
Right.
year.
Well,
We haven't spent a dime of it, done.
It was always going to be over 2 years.
Yes.
oh, I don't know. I don't see any reason not to go forward
okay.
personally, but
Just a quick comment. I think that the little house there, the little ticket booth, the rec commission was looking to do that anyway because it was falling apart and I think it was infested. So that was going to be on their list probably for this year. So
Yep.
that's a good thing. And just to like put a little tickler in people's minds, there's some other open space things that are be coming up. So keep that funding in your mind.
Agreed.
All right. So,
Can I entertain a motion?
sure, that's what I was just gonna ask.
All right. I
You
entertain a
read my
motion that
mind.
We support this grant.
Including the motion, should we put that, where we're gonna get the funds? So we can say we'll take it from the recovery money?
The American Recovery money.
Is that okay,
Fine.
Joe?
That's fine with me.
Okay. Do I have a second?
That's in the amount of
Bur- bur-
$631.
Yeah, and that
33.
might, it's 33, right?
Yeah, 33.
631.
Providing we don't get the CRMC grant through
Right.
the
Right.
Bay and,
Right.
okay,
So
Right,
why don't we
if-
say no more than 33?
that's a good,
There you go.
630.
I'll agree with that.
Okay.
well, no more than 33,631. There's a
Yes.
number there, right?
Okay,
Right.
Donna, you're right.
Well, I'm just
No, you're
leaving
right.
at least $600 hanging.
Then we just rounded off to
Oh, it's only
34,000.
6,000, Donna.
Just make it
Yeah.
34. No, I mean,
I'll second the motion.
34,000.
Brian, do you need in the motion a specific language around, we will honor the 25% match inclusive of in-kind and the 33,631?
I have not talked to the infrastructure bank people about.
I would make that motion that we would agree
Level
to
of
25% match inclusive of in-kind and cash contributions.
Yes.
So moved.
That would cover it.
Joan, do
Okay.
you have the motion?
I'll second it.
You sure? Okay. Because
Yeah.
poor Joan, we've changed this motion 16 times.
She's used to it.
Well, That's
Yeah, I
why
know.
she gets paid the big dollars.
All right, so motion's been made by Councilor Perry, seconded by Councilor Edwards. Any further discussion?
So that 25%, does that increase it then to 67,261?
It
It's
is.
a it's a
With half of it
combination,
in-kind,
right.
Yeah.
which we're doing
We're
anyhow.
committing to that,
Well,
knowing that half of that will be met by in-kind service.
Right. Okay.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, Councilor Vieira,
Yes.
Councilor Edwards,
Yes.
Councilor Janick,
Yes.
Councilor Burke,
Yes.
Councilor Perry,
Yes.
Councilor Cook,
yes.
and I'm a yes. Thank you, Brian. Very good work as usual.
As usual.
Don't go away.
Yeah, here's the next item too.
I know. Brian James, Open Space Commission discussion and possible vote on status and disposition of Monast Island, including authorizing solicitor to take all the necessary actions to foreclose on the tax title and transfer land to State of Rhode Island. Brian?
This one's a little unusual.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I know.
DEM contacted me about this, and I had no idea what they were talking about. And I've yet to meet anyone who really understood that this was Tiverton land, because it's located so far north and out in the middle of the river. Essentially, it's a sandbar.
Yep.
That has one or two islands, depending on the tide and storms. And it turns out, Tiverton has held the tax title since 1971.
Okay.
And so I discussed the process with Mike, and we would need to go through a foreclosure process to get clear title to it. Mike estimated that would run somewhere between $3,500 and $4,500. And so DEM, I asked them for the letter, which was included, that they agreed to reimburse Tiverton up to $5,000 for that foreclosure process. Their interest is just to protect that because it is the largest breeding colony for terns, common terns in Rhode Island. And I guess it's ideal for common terns. So they've agreed to reimburse Tiverton in exchange for a title to the property. As it has been sitting stagnant since 1971, it does not seem like it would be much of a stretch to complete this for them. I also asked Mike the risk in going forward, and he felt it was very low because the process, as I understand it, and Mike, please correct me, that the original owner has the right to redeem, possibly, if the court allows them that. However, my read of the Rhode Island statutes is that it's redeeming on 1% per month. And even though it was taken by the town of Tiverton, because no one bought it at the tax sale, I think it was about $650 in back taxes at the time. That adds up at 1% per month to, I think, well over $100,000. So it seems unlikely someone would step up with that kind of money to claim the sandbar.
Yeah, the most difficult part from my perspective is we got to give notice to anybody who had an interest in it. So we got to figure out who owned it and, figure out how the court's going to allow the notice. You probably have to do it by advertisement or something like that. But I want to make sure that you understand the second step of this is that once we do take title, we're going to transfer it to the state of Rhode Island. So we're basically going to give them a deed, I guess, a foreclosure deed, naming them as the new owners, in which we won't get any taxes on it. Because the state, you don't tax the state.
Not getting any anyway.
That's my question. Do we get taxes on it now?
No,
Okay.
no, that's what I
Actually,
read.
it was originally sold for taxes in 1968 from Mr. Monast. And it was purchased by an attorney at that tax sale. And then that attorney never paid the taxes. So it went up for sale again in 1971 and nobody bid on it that time. And so they transferred title back to the town.
I see it all the time when I go for a walk because Cliff Street overlooks that. And I always look at it to see when it's high tide or not, because there's hardly anything left of it sometimes. I really don't know where the birds would go. And to find out, I always thought it was a sandbar, but to actually it's an island. I thought an island had to have a tree on it. I don't see any trees on it. I honestly, for a definition of an island.
On satellite, it looks like there might be a couple of shrubs.
We'll plant a palm tree on it.
I don't know, but I just, I can't understand why someone would want to own it. I would think that if there's a good storm, I would lose my home or myself or it's really
maybe 100 years ago it was a little more visible.
Maybe I don't know, but that's interesting. That's interesting history. But
the only people I ran across that knew it were boaters.
Back in the 60s.
Because they ran into it.
Well, back in the 60s, there used to be a guy who used to sell hot dogs out there in the summer.
Are you serious?
Yeah, back in the
What?
60s. Yeah,
You're
he used to set
lying.
up, I'm telling you, back in the 60s.
What do they call it, Coney Island?
He used to set
No.
up a little thing there. He used to sell hot dogs only at a certain time because the tide had to be low and yeah. and then-
Jesus,
Really
Joe, how do you
serious.
remember? How do you know all these things?
No, I was
He's old.
I'm from
Good
that
time.
era.
All right, so
So-
if there's no further questions, I'd like to entertain a motion.
Since I see it all the time, I'll
ahead.
make a motion for the disposition of Monast Island, including an authorizing solicitor to take all necessary actions to foreclose on the tax title and transfer land to the state of Rhode Island. For the what do we have to put the amount in? What is it, like almost $5,000? But we're
They
supposed
said
to
not
be
to,
reimbursed.
they'll reimburse the legal fees, so we don't know exactly what those will
Oh,
be.
okay. Well, all right.
For reimbursement of legal fees.
I'll second it.
I have a motion by Councilor Cook, seconded by Councilor Perry. All those in favor, Councilor Vieira,
Yes.
Councilor Edwards,
Yes,
Councilor Janick,
Yes,
Councilor Burke,
Yes,
Councilor Perry,
Yes,
Councilor Cook,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
it's pretty funny when the DEM tells us what we own.
Yeah. Yeah.
Chris,
We never
I
get a dime
removed
from it.
Trish from the panel, and I think I lost her completely.
No, she should be an attendee list. Hang on.
She wanted to stay on attendees, but I think.
Well, if
So
you
I
removed her, she's gone. You
I
can't,
removed her.
you can't.
Can she
use
come
removal.
back
No, she can't come back
Do
in.
ever?
No, next meeting she can. That's, I did that to Eva, Rosemary Eva.
Oh, that's right,
mistake.
that's right. Oh, my God. Because I
Yeah,
saw where I could remove, so, oh, poor Trish.
She
Yeah.
can't shut it down and then sign back in.
I don't think she can come back in for this meeting. Once she's been removed from the meeting.
Wow, look at that, guys. I can do that.
Yeah,
oh,
that's why I was kind of concerned when I didn't get to be the co-host, because I usually do those moves for you.
So how do you move them, though? I'm sorry.
There's a way to put them back as the attendee.
Okay.
Can
Oh,
she
well.
call maybe with another telephone number or something?
No, I went through this with Rosemary. It's not.
She
she's
won't
a-
be mad. She might resign from the committee we just put her on, but we'll see.
Tell her I apologize, to blame it on me.
No, it's my fault.
well, it's probably based on the IP address of the computer, so if she
Yeah,
had
it
another
is.
computer.
It's
yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
And the meeting ID number. So when you come in on that IP, it will not let you in again.
Right,
Oh,
so
I
if she
didn't
had
know
another, if she had another computer with a different IP address, she could.
Or just a telephone, if she called in via telephone,
Yeah,
she
yeah.
should be able to.
All right, well, anyway, sorry, Trish, if you're listening anywhere. Councilor Edwards, discussion and possible vote on resolution requesting amendments related to the SEER RMC agriculture application notification. Jay?
Okay, well, you've all heard me bring this up before, and I had Solicitor Marcello go through it, smooth it up in a way that the legislature can understand and read. And it mostly centers around notification of people, abutters, if you want to call them that, and the town, so that we have sufficient and adequate time to challenge, let's just say, any development on the water adjacent to our shore. It asks for nothing more than that, really. So that's about it. I understand that the CRMC has taken a lot of heat, and as a result of that, they have scheduled a lot of hearings. The legislature has set up some hearings, and a lot of these things are being addressed by that. But I still think it would add weight if the town of Tiverton submitted this to add our voice to the argument.
Any questions or comments from councilors?
Okay. Oh, gotta put my
Donna?
hand up. I gotta put.
Well,
oh, I
Donna
was
had
gonna-
something. Donna had something.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
yeah.
I forgot my hand up. I can't.
No, it's all right. Go ahead, Donna. I could see you light up. You said something.
Um, it's interesting to note that with this and a very interested stakeholders in town, we have made ourselves known that we're not going to be being pushed around stakeholders in Tiverton for our lovely shoreline to be all of a sudden made commercial, and who has the senior rights for that is also being asked, which is interesting. All of a sudden, it becomes first serve is the aquaculture when it should be what the Constitution says, that it should be stakeholders and the trust and what has been left from our past generations for us to have the shoreline and to keep it for our recreation. So we're kind of in a tussle about that. And there's unanswered questions, but we do have a good group of people and the Harbor Commission working on that. And yes, the CRMC is having their SAMP meetings. And there's also a very serious group represented by Representative Ruggiero, and they're looking into how the CRMC works, and it's very interesting. So we're going to see if there's changes there. The CRMC is actually considering a 500 feet boundary where they, want to have people notified. Of course, they're not saying that they want to notify, but it always should be on the people that are actually wanting to take these special areas and use it for a commercial purpose. So I think this is a very good way to start and to send it in. Thank you, Jay. And if you get help from Mr. Solicitor Marcello, it's a good job in my opinion.
You're muted, Denise.
I'm sorry, I'm Councilor Burke.
Thanks, Jay, for following through on this, because I know this was something you brought forward before it was timing. The timing was right, and certainly the timing is right now with the assembly in session and all of the attention to this. I mean, from my perspective, one of the biggest pieces that we heard, because there are competing interests in terms of uses of the water, but the biggest component was notice. We're required, as we know, to give notice on a lot of things to folks. And I think that the state agencies who have impact on property rights and impact on towns should have to give that notice. I'm actually, and I don't know how you would do this, but I think, notice to a much more broader than even 1,000 feet would be appropriate, because there's plenty of people who make use of the waters for a variety of reasons, and the land around the waters for a variety of reasons. And I don't think this should be simply about, and I know it's important to them, but about somebody's view of the water. That might not be a statement that some people would like, but I don't think it should be just about that. The other pieces, I would just suggest that perhaps we have the clerk do like other communities do and send it out to the other communities. Especially the coastal communities, and maybe focusing on the coastal communities because of the impact on the coastal communities.
Anyone else?
Yeah,
Yeah, Donna, I see your hand now. Go ahead.
I agree with Mike. It should be sent to all the coastal communities. They are also involved with Tiverton Group, trying to make sure that the stakeholders have a say, and there is a consensus, Mike, just to tell you that they do want more than 1,000 feet. I don't know, how that's going to be resolved. I think it's just important that the people, if they're going to apply for something, then just like we do with land, that they have to notify people. Also for riparian rights and dock rights. Right now, people with riparian rights seem to be in second status to the fact that they have to wait due to someone that applied that hasn't do a farm that hasn't been actually approved yet. So everyone's like sort of stuck. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Donna. Anyone else? I'd like to entertain a motion.
I guess I can make the motion that we accept my proposal to submit this resolution to the state legislature and also ask the town clerk to also send it to the, I won't say every town and city in Rhode Island, but certainly the ones with appreciable bodies of water that might be affected.
Second,
Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor? Councilor Cook?
One thing,
Yes.
the people that would know where to send these to for the towns would be the Harbor Commission. They would know pretty much who were being impacted with this problem. So,
Perfect. We can consult them.
okay, I'll put my hand down.
All right, Councilor,
Yeah, yes.
okay, Councilor Vieira,
yes.
Councilor Edwards,
Yes.
Councilor Burke,
Yes.
Councilor Perry,
Yes,
Councilor Janick,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Thank you.
I want to
Thank
thank
you,
my
Jen.
fellow councilors for their support.
At this time, I would ask that we move J and discuss it right now. Jerry Locken is here, and so is the financial person from the schools. Do I have, I'll make the motion that we move J forward. Do I have a
Second.
sec- Mike, did you second or Jay second? Jay. Motion's been made and Jay seconded. All those in favor, Councilor Vieira,
Yes.
Councilor Edwards,
Yes.
Councilor Burke,
Yes.
Councilor Perry.
Madam President, what are we moving forward?
Item J, discussion and possible vote for approval of bids from the school department.
Okay, yes,
And Councilor Cook,
Yes.
did I forget anyone? Councilor Janick, I thought I might have, you moved a little.
Yeah.
And I'm a yes. So I was at the school board meeting when they discussed these items. I suggested they come to us because they needed an adjustment of what we allocated. And as you can see, some items came in low and some came a little bit higher, but it kind of all equals out. I also talked to Attorney Marcello. I don't know if he's there, but I also asked if we had to approve these bids like we do for all the town things, and he did tell me yes. Mike, are you there? I think he took a break for a minute. So, good evening, Amy and Jerry.
Hey,
So Amy, if you'd like to go through each one for us, starting with the siding at Ranger School.
I'm sorry, what is it exactly that you would like me to present?
I'd like you to say that the allocated amount was 7,500, that the final cost was 9,975, who you gave the bid to, and we'll approve it.
Okay,
Okay, is that good?
yeah.
Amy, if you don't, I have the numbers up in front of me and then you
Yeah,
can.
I have the
probably-
numbers here, so I can repeat them.
Okay,
It's just that the town council has to approve these bids.
Yep.
Per charter, that's the way it goes, so. So Amy, who did you give the signing bid to?
That was given to Allbor Construction Company pursuant to a contract on the MPA list, number 106.
All right, and this bid was advertised. I asked you this before. This bid was advertised. You went through the bid. No, it wasn't.
No, because the vendor was on the master purchase agreement list. They were authorized up to projects up to $1 million.
Chris, is that the
Yes.
way? Yes,
That's cool.
So anytime we can utilize the state's master price agreement, it is in compliance with state procurement bid
all right,
process.
thank you. I don't know that completely. All right, so I'd entertain a motion to approve $9,975,000 to Auburn, you said?
Allborg.
Allborg,
I'm sorry, my hearing's not good tonight. Auburn.
Allborg.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
So moved with a comment.
All right, so wait 1 second, Jay. So motion's been made by Councilor Edwards, seconded by Councilor Burke. Any further comments? Go ahead, Jay.
Just for everybody's edification here. This came before the Budget Committee a couple of times during my tenure. This is a perfect example of how putting these things off gets a lot more expensive the longer you do it. This started out being something like a $5,000 project. And here we are, Jerry, correct me if I'm wrong, 4 years later? And it's almost doubled.
Yeah.
It's
Something
doubled.
like that, right, Jay?
I think it's still, Jay, within the range of where it started, but you're right,
Yeah,
maybe.
it was never 10 grand. So,
No, well, but we didn't have, I mean.
and
just
it
to
gets
be
worse,
fair,
so it gets
yeah,
more expensive.
Yeah, it just to be fair, the numbers were always estimates beforehand and never passed the budget. Now, it's not unreasonable to expect that the number in reality may be different and inflation, et cetera. But you're right, your point is well made that, the more we put off maintenance, the more it costs the town in the long run.
Yeah, it's cool.
All right, so the dishwasher for THS, 55,000.
Madam President.
We
you
got
had
to vote on the
You had a
motion, right?
motion
Oh,
on
I'm
that. Do you want
so
us to
sorry,
vote?
Mike. I'm fainting.
Do we need to vote separately on each of these, or can we take them as a package?
Take them as a package if you want. If you want to go down and discuss each one and then.
Okay, perfect.
May I suggest we vote on this one and then the rest we
Yep.
look at as a package? Unless
All
somebody
right,
wants
so
to. pull
motion's
something
been
off.
made and second, I said that. All those in favor, Councilor Vieira,
Abstain.
Councilor Edwards,
Yes.
Councilor Burke,
Yes.
Councilor Janick,
Yes.
Councilor Perry,
Yes.
Councilor Cook,
No.
and I'm a yes. So the motion passes 5 with 1 no and 1 abstention. Dishwasher THS, 55,000, final cost 58,769, 45, and that bid went to
Kittredge Equipment, Kittredge Equipment Company.
all right, thank you. The steamer TMS, 60,000, that came in lower at 44,116. Bid went to who, Amy?
Also Kittredge Equipment Company.
Okay.
You want me to run
Oh.
through these, Madam President, for you?
No, yeah, would you, Mike?
Yeah, no, that's fine. The lawnmowers, 3 of them were allocated $24,000, came in at $23,919.94. And the vendor for that, Amy?
Coastal Equipment.
Okay, and the intercom for Tiverton High School was allocated $25,000, came in at $26,297, and the vendor for that?
Is Shanix, SHANIX. I don't know if that's their full name, but
And you'll be able to get all this to the administrator, all the details, correct? Unless you've already provided the vendor's names written down. So he
I
has
can do
them.
that.
Yep, great, thanks. So the total allocated amount for these projects was $171,500. But the final cost was slightly lower at $163,077.39, a savings of roughly $8,000. Do I have a motion for the remaining items, the dishwasher, the steamer, the lawnmowers, and the intercom? Councilor Perry, do I see your hand?
Yeah, the only comment I'd make is I got to talk to my wife because I wash dishes and I don't get $58,000. I don't have to put in for it. But anyway, I'll make
Put you in
that
the high
motion.
school.
I'll make that motion to for the 163,077.39.
Okay, with all those other items. So actually, Joe, it would be lower. I would just say for the
Oh, be
remaining
less
items.
9,000?
Yeah, the remaining items, dishwasher, steamer, lawnmower, intercom at the price, final cost identified.
Okay, yep, I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Councilor
Second.
Perry made the motion. Councilor Janick made the second. Any discussion? Councilor Edwards?
Just to be sure. So the dishwasher and the steamer, soup to nuts, installed, warranty, all done.
Correct.
Okay.
Other discussion? Seeing none, we have a motion on the floor. You want me to continue?
Yes,
Yep.
continue.
Move the question.
So we have a motion on the floor to approve the dishwasher, steamer, lawnmowers, and intercom to the contractors that were identified to each, just going down. Dishwashers, Kittredge equipment, steamers, Kittredge equipment, lawnmowers for coastal equipment, and intercom is Janick's. Councilor Vieira,
Abstain.
Councilor Edwards,
Yes.
Councilor Perry,
Yes,
Councilor Janick,
Yes.
Councilor deMedeiros.
Yes, and Joan, your cat's beautiful. He just went right by your screen.
And Councilor Cook?
Good.
No.
No, and I'm a yes. So I believe that was
I know.
5 in favor. I think, Bill, you abstained, and Councilor Cook voted no.
511.
Well,
And
it's nice that this came $8,000 under the original estimate.
Yeah, good work, Amy.
Maybe they
All
can
right,
buy a
thank-
toilet with it.
They might be able to. Thank you,
Amy,
Amy.
anytime you need a dishwasher, let me know. 58,000, I'm there.
Right? I will, certainly. Thank you all.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you,
Thank
Jerry.
you. Thank
All
you,
right,
Jerry.
thanks, guys.
Hey, Jerry, do you want to stay on for when we talk about the school housing aid?
Sure.
Is that okay, Madam President?
Yeah, that's fine. And
Yeah.
I'm not going to get rid of anyone. Chris will do that. Poor Trish is banned from the meeting right now. All right. I'm sorry. I had to just take some water in. So the next one, am I right? Councilor Burk? Discussion
Is the
of
housing aid?
Yeah, possible vote on resolution to change Rhode Island GL 167040 C and D. Mike?
So this is pretty straightforward. We had a few resolutions. I know Cumberland was one of the school committees that were on our consent agenda last time, and I forget the other one. But certainly others are doing this, and I would assume that some of the cities and towns are, city councils and town councils. It's fairly straightforward. Currently, when you look at C in 16740, Rhode Island General Law 16740, the current law only allows for construction projects that have commenced on or before December 30th of 2022. So this extends that for 1 year and still allows for completion by 2027. It doesn't change the percentages or anything. And, this is housing aid related to remediation of hazardous materials, health and safety deficiencies. Certainly some of the things that we've been talking with the school committee about and they are in need of. And then D does a similar thing. Current statute is 2022. This extends that to 2023 for projects that have commenced since before that date, December 30th of 2023. And that's specific for enhancements of early childhood education, career technical education, which certainly I know the school committee has been looking at some career tech options and the like. It is construction, it's not operations. So I ask that we consider this, and at the same time, when I make the motion, I will include in the motion that Diane Farmworth had been asked by the school committee to reach out to see if we could do a joint resolution. And given how far we were along in the process, Mike and I agreed that we should probably do one resolution here. I believe the chairman will let us know that they're going to take up their own resolution tomorrow night at the school committee, I think. But that we do a joint transmission letter from either the president of the council and the chair of the school committee, or the administrator and the superintendent, whichever we desire.
I believe we are posted to take it up, yeah. And I would probably put all 4 people on, frankly.
That's
Oh,
okay.
oh,
with-
yeah, yeah.
All 4, that's okay with me also. Any further discussion, Jay?
So Mike, the only real change then is the commencement date changed from a date in 2022 to 23.
Yes.
And that's mostly to give us relief for what
Think
was
projects
certainly
that
a delay in many projects because of COVID.
Yes.
Any other questions? I'd entertain a motion.
So I'll make a motion that we approve the resolution related to changing Rhode Island General Laws 16740C and D related to school housing ratio aid, and that we send a joint transmission letter to the our state delegation and the governor with the council president and town administrator, as well as the school committee chair and superintendent.
Second,
Motion's been made in second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, Councilor Vieira,
Yes.
Councilor Edwards,
yes.
Councilor Burke,
Yes.
Councilor Perry,
Yes.
Councilor Janick,
Yes.
Councilor Cook,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Thank you, Jerry. Thank you,
Thank
Mike.
you, Jerry.
Yeah, I just checked our agenda. We're taking it up in a couple of weeks. We didn't post it for tomorrow. We just have
Okay.
to packed an agenda, but we will, I'm sure, take it up and agree with you guys.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Good evening. Thank you.
Councilor Burke. Discussion, no?
No, go ahead.
Oh, discussion, possible vote on resolution requesting Governor Daniel McKee with the General Assembly to increase the number of basic police training academy.
Thank you, Madam President. So this again was similar to a resolution that was brought on our consent agenda from one of the other cities and towns. I can't remember which one offhand. But right now, as Chief Jones has informed us on several occasions, and I believe this has been going on for quite some time, the Municipal Police Academy only holds 2 classes a year, which in the length of time for the training academy is 22 weeks, which means that we have, and then the class sizes are limited. I don't know exactly what the class sizes are limited. I don't know if the chief is here to answer that if you have a question about that, but this is asking that the governor and the Colonel of Public Safety expand that number of classes to accommodate for the needs of the cities and towns. It does not give a specific number, I believe. It just asks for them to expand it.
So we either expand the number of classes or increase the population of a class.
That I think would be hard to do, just because of all the everything they have to go through, but certainly the number of classes.
Madam President,
Yes, Councilor
if it's a
Perry.
22-week class, there's only 52 weeks in a year, so I don't know how they can increase it. I think they would probably have to increase the class size rather than the number of classes.
Or they have overlapping classes.
They do?
They
I
could.
said, Could.
Good.
I think sorry.
No, go ahead, Deb.
Part of the problem is that they come up so infrequently. So even if you have 10 candidates, the class only starts, say, in January, you're not going to have another class for like another 6 or 9 months. That's what more of the problem is. So now you've got, it would be better if they had a few more classes and they were coming out with a little less time in between, so that you're getting them up and running, because then they have all those months where they're on the road with somebody else. So they're still not fully operational even when they get out of the classroom.
Yeah, I think also, Deb, I think they only have so many trainers or people that put on the class. So I think it makes it hard for them to run more than 2 or 3 classes a year. Because they're
And-
limited to the amount of trainers.
Councilor Burke.
And while I appreciate that they may have constraints, Joe, I think it's our duty to try to make sure that we have as many opportunities as possible to keep our department staffed. And I would actually defer to Chief Jones if he had any comments on it, if the President allows.
Patrick, yeah, you are there. Do you have any comments?
A lot of the comments have been brought up. I know that there's been discussion on the state level, and as Councilor Perry said, there's 52 weeks in a year. And there's 2 classes that start, one in the wintertime and one in the summertime. So, and that little in between gives the staff, which there are only 2 full-time members of the academy staff. The rest are state troopers, and everyone else, including Tiverton, sends people to help out with training. So I don't know how they're going to add another class. They're already at 60 now for the cap of incoming recruits, and they stick with 60. They give 2 weeks of the ability to backfill in case a candidate drops out. And then by week 3, they go with whatever they have until the end. So overlapping, I don't think is an option because they don't have the staff. I think that they're probably looking to utilize funding to increase the academy and hire staff. I just don't know how they're going to do it. And without any specifics, I believe this is Lincoln, Mr. Burke, that moved it forward. I'm just not sure where they stand as far as any sort of game plan.
Councilor Edwards?
Chief Jones, is this like college? They go there for the day and then they go home, or is it's not a barracks situation?
It's not live-in.
Okay.
So they go there and they commute. Sometimes the days are 12 to 16 hours. Sometimes they're 6 days a week. But they are based at, or they were at CCRI in Lincoln. They've moved them away from there, and they've been using the National Guard base in East Greenwich, because as you can imagine, having 60 academy recruits blending in with college students isn't really a good kind of vibe. So they've done a really good job of trying to keep the classroom, which they still do at CCRI because they do rent space there, and keeping the executive offices there, but they try to keep the recruits off campus at the National Guard base as much as possible. I think the conversation from what I've heard about building a unified academy in the state, so everyone goes there, because there's a Providence Police Academy, State Police Academy, and then everybody else, every single other municipal college, DEM goes to where we go. So I know those discussions have been had, but it's never been taken off the ground.
So this isn't just what we call municipal police officers. This is also the DEM, game wardens, park rangers, all of that.
Who is a sworn officer other than a Providence police officer and a state police officer goes, and there's a municipal academy requirement, they go there.
Wow.
How about sheriffs? Do they go?
Sheriffs, ma'am, good point. Sheriffs have their own academy.
Their own?
It's a bridge.
Sheesh.
Yeah, so there is actually a 4th academy, but it's not 22 weeks long. It's like 10 weeks. But that is also run through DPS and the state police, Department of Public Safety.
So they got the resources, the manpower. They just need to manage it better and merge.
And money. They need
Well,
funding.
money, of course, but
Because I think they want to put it in one central location so they can try and eliminate, but it's also trying to get everybody on board, because state police is still a live-in barrack situation. Everyone else is commuting.
Right. Any further questions?
Well, is it worth sending in after this conversation, or are we just wasting our time? It sounds like we're kind of wasting our time.
it never
There's
hurts
so many
to ask.
constraints.
I think it just gives the sense of the council in the town.
If they would
Doesn't
have
really hurt, Donna.
to have more
Yeah, it's not.
classes, I mean, if we were able to get a 3rd academy, that would be great, because it would kind of be it. So this way we're not waiting, because as you know, we talked about this a bunch, it's about 18 months to hire a police officer to get him on the road, or him or her on the road. from application to academy to field training, all of it, it's about 18 months. So we're always running behind. So if they can add a class, and I know the demands of law enforcement nationwide are, it's the great resignation period in law enforcement. It's very, very hard to find these folks. So if they were to do something, or at least have a conversation, it'd be worthwhile.
Okay, well, I'll make a motion for resolution requesting the governor, Daniel McKee, and the General Assembly to increase the number of basic police training academies.
Second.
Motion's been made in second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, Councilor Vieira,
Yes.
Councilor Edwards,
Yes.
Councilor Burke,
Yes.
Councilor Janick,
Yes.
Councilor Perry,
Yes.
Councilor Cook,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. At this time, Tim Cavassa is in the attendees. I would like to move G and H up.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion's been made in second. Any discussion? The reason why is because Tim, we asked him to come to discuss these two items. All those in favor, Councilor Vieira,
Yes.
Councilor Edwards,
Yes.
Councilor Burke,
Yes.
Councilor Janick,
Yes.
Councilor Perry,
Yes.
Councilor Cook.
Yes.
Chris, you gonna bring Tim in? You want me to?
Are you going to lose him, Denise?
No, I just brought him
No,
in.
they're in.
No, I can bring him in. I just can't bring him out.
Okay.
That's all. But Chris is gonna teach me how to do that at one point. Welcome, Tim. Tim can't, yeah, you're on mute, but I know you're here. So item G, town administrative discussion and possible vote on U.S. Department of Justice 250,000 police officer cops grant. We asked him to come because some of the councilors had questions. We also asked to review the cost, and I think you all got the email that Councilor Edwards sent, and he'll talk about it. He spent, and thank you, Jay, he spent some time with treasurer and different people trying to estimate this cost, and I thank him for his work. Tim, I know I called you and got you prepared for some of the questions I had. I'm not sure if other councilors want to stop before me, or do you want me to go? All right, so one of the major concerns was the contract and whether or not this would affect the contract in any way, putting 2 extra men in for 3, well, it's actually 4 years, and what it would mean when we take these people out if we had to. Is that a good way to put it, Tim?
Yes. First of all, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, good. Yeah, and we're talking about bodies and funded positions. So bodies and funded positions are mandatory subjects of bargaining. They can be negotiated, but the collective bargaining agreement as it stands doesn't prevent you from getting this grant, nor does getting the grant automatically change or put anything into the collective bargaining agreement. So
But it would be for open discussion during contracts because we had these 2 men there.
that's correct. Yeah, if you add bodies to the department, it would be a subject that you could be asked to bargain over. The contract already does have a wage scale. The grant covers the base wage scale for the entry level patrol officers, so that's already been negotiated. The benefits have already been negotiated. Minimum staffing has already been negotiated. The provisions are already in the contract. The fact that you're adding bodies, or you would be adding bodies through the grant, doesn't necessarily impact the contract. It doesn't require you to put anything in. And from my perspective, knowing the contract, it doesn't require that you put any language in the contract. You'd be open to, discussions on it during negotiations,
but the main provisions regarding bodies and adding positions are already in the contract.
Now, the chief has proposed that we take 2 of our sergeants and make them lieutenants. So this would be a permanent contractual thing. Like, we couldn't go back and make them sergeant if we decided this program wasn't working.
That is something you would have to negotiate. Yes, you've already negotiated a promotional procedure and you have the ability to promote. So once you went through the contractual promotional procedure and made the promotion, unless you reached an agreement with the union and the individuals that the people promoted would be demoted after the 48-month period of the grant and the post-grant retention period, the promotions would stay in place unless negotiated otherwise with the union.
Which adds to our budget, because they do make more money, and also their pension and everything else.
Yeah, the difference between a lieutenant and a sergeant would be a
It's
cost that
yeah.
would be built in depending on how long those sergeants, the lieutenant stayed with the department.
So there was, as we were talking, there was a couple of other concerns. In the grant application itself, it says that we have 31 police officers, which we actually only have, and correct me if I'm wrong, Patrick, we have 29 plus you and your assistant.
And the deputy, we have 31 sworn positions, correct?
Right, so but we actually have 29 out on the road working.
But that's
So
not how the grant looks at it. It looks at fiscally, we have 31 sworn police officers. I'm a police officer, the deputy chief's a police
Okay,
officer.
so when we add the 2, we're counting the 31 as you and your deputy chief,
That's correct.
and the grant's aware of that. So,
Yes, it is.
okay, I was just concerned that they thought that these were actual patrolmen
Right.
and that we'd have to add 4 in order to bring that up to snuff.
Right.
Right.
And if I may, Madam President, just
Yes,
by means of correction, I want to, and I'm looking at promoting 1 officer to lieutenant. And then
okay,
the other one would be promoted to detective. And per the union contract, we need to have at least 1 detective for it who is appointed, and detectives are appointed at my discretion. So
mhm,
we have 1 detective now, so we are at the contractual minimum. We actually have 2. So we're +1 in the contract with detectives right now. My proposal to you would be to add another detective. And detectives, because we're already over the contractual cap, would be transferred back in the event in 4 years that we didn't want to do this anymore. And with the lieutenant's position, we would be 1 lieutenant heavy. We'd be a +1 lieutenant. If you didn't want to continue this in 4 years, or we all don't want to continue this, whoever's here, the next time a lieutenant would retire, it would backfill because we'd be over the 4 years. And this is 4 years plus 1 day. Kim, am I correct on that?
does that make
That's-
sense then? Okay,
It does, yes, yeah, you have contractual minimums in the contract. So as long as you're above the minimums, which you are, going over and above a minimum doesn't, it's different than going below. If you go below, then you have to hire up. But if you go above, unless and until that minimum number gets increased in the contract, then you're fine and you can reduce back to the minimum through attrition once you get past the grant period.
now, you agree with us that we have to keep them on for the 4th year, correct, Tim?
Yes, the grant period will be for 36 months, and then you are required to retain them for an additional 12 months after. So for month 37 to month 48, you are required to retain them in your budget. And the way the grant paperwork is written, you have to make a commitment now that you're going to budget for those additional 2 people for that 4th year. And you have to make a commitment during that budget process in the 4th year that if you're at 31 now, you'll have to have 33 in the budget for that 4th year.
So, which we would have to brunt the whole cost of that for the 4th year. That's not
That's
part of
correct.
the agreement.
That's
So
correct.
everybody needs to keep that in mind, that 4th year, that budget's gonna go way up because those two offices will be our full responsibility for costs. And then the 5th year, we can make a decision whether to keep the program going.
That's your prerogative. Yes, once that 48-month period is done, the first 36 where you're receiving funds, and then the next 12 months, once that 48 months is over, it's your prerogative to retain or not retain those officers.
Well, at that point, we can use them for retirements or whatever openings we have.
Correct. You're no longer obligated to have those 2 extra budgeted positions.
Okay. Anything else? Do you have any other concerns with it? Because we did send you the application and
I did
Go ahead.
review the application in full, and the application, in addition to that, there are essentially, they call it the user manual. It's a guide that the Department of Justice, the specific office, puts out that goes into detail all of the requirements and the provisions of the loan. I've gone through those in detail. I've had discussions with you, Madam President. I've had discussions with the chief. I've had discussions with the town administrator on my concerns. They weren't concerns. They were just things that I needed cleared up to make sure that we were dealing with a number 31 in the budget, which included the chief and the deputy. That's cleared. I've had some questions. There are some administrative pieces that I don't think the council needs to discuss, but there are administrative requirements that the chief and the department will have to go through. There are some affirmative action plan components. The chief already has an affirmative action plan. We just need to make some tweaks to it. While the loan is in place, we have to make sure there's a drug-free workplace policy. There are certain things when you receive federal monies, you have to check all of the appropriate boxes to make sure you're compliant with the loan. I'm familiar with all of them. I've already spoken with the chief about them. We'll do a little, an audit of the few policies that we need to audit. And if the chief needs to addend or make any addendums to the existing department policies, we can do that at the appropriate time. And I didn't have necessarily any other concerns. I'm happy to answer any questions that either you have or any other counselors have, or the chief.
I just have one other thing, and I don't know, Patrick, or you could answer this. As I was looking through the application, there appears to be some questions that weren't answered. Like one of them is, has your jurisdiction passed legislation which authorizes the creation of a new law enforcement agency? I didn't see an answer to that.
So in a lot of those, because they're pre-formatted, so it's basically the version. If there's no answer, it's kind of like not applicable. So it just skips down, because I know there's a few questions, because the cops grant, it's open to sheriff's departments, college police, tribal police. So it's it's open to all recognized law enforcement agencies throughout the country. So there were just some questions that didn't apply to us.
All right, but they're asking if the powers that be agreed to create this new enforcement agency, but you don't feel that applied to us.
My interpretation of that question was for agencies that are getting new police departments. Because they'll incorporate themselves, they'll become like a new city or a town, and they want the federal government to help them fund new police officers, so they'll apply for the grant.
All right, because there were several questions that I didn't see an answer, and I just didn't know if it didn't come out in my copy or, okay.
The SROs is another area where if you're using the money to fund an SRO position, there's several other questions and affidavits.
Yeah, I noticed that. Yes, I did notice that. Yeah. It looks like that we're not permitted to do that actually with this money. Did I understand that correctly?
You can, but there are several additional hoops that you have to jump through, but I don't think the chief intends to. The money just it has to be used to enhance your community policing efforts, and in my discussions with the chief, that is what he's using the monies for.
Yeah, this application is 40 pages long. And while I was laying in bed getting sick, I was reading it.
It's a fun read.
So I was looking at it. All right, Donna has some questions.
Yes, I want to know, these two officers, are they part of the union? Are they in part of the seniority? Are they, how does that work?
Yeah, so Councilor Cook, when any positions below the chief and the deputy, or at least the entry-level positions that will be hired, are bargaining unit positions. You know, once they become sworn officers, the union's certification covers patrol officers. So once they become sworn officers, the two new hires, they will be bargaining unit members and a part of the bargaining unit. And all bargaining unit members are entitled to seniority under the contract. So they would be entitled to seniority and other things that and other terms and conditions that exist in the collective bargaining agreement.
All right, so how does this work? You have these two officers with a special job to do. Can it go to the regular staff, or is it just to those individuals that were brought in for that?
The grant allows you to do a couple of things. You can bring in you have to bring in two new hires, or you could bring in two laid off police officers, or you could choose not to lay off two police officers that you were going to lay off. You're going the first route, where you're bringing in two new recruits, and the grant pays a portion of the new recruit salary up to a cap that established by the feds that are authorizing the grant. You can choose to have those two new officers perform the community policing functions and enhance the community policing functions in accordance with the grant documents, or you can choose to hire two new people, which will enhance your overall department budgeted number by two, and you can take existing more senior officers and transfer them into roles that enhance your community policing. And it's my understanding the chief is doing the latter. He's going to be hiring two new officers, which will fill the ranks from the bottom, but that'll push two people up through the top, one of whom will be promoted to lieutenant, one of whom will be transferred and or promoted into the detectives division. And it's the two existing officers, the new detective and the new lieutenant, who will be performing the enhanced community policing functions. I hope I said that right, Chief.
Yeah, and Donna, you just made me think of what I'm asking. So if these two men are part of the union, they're going to have seniority. These, at the end of the 4 years, these two men might not be the ones that we let go, depending if we hired people to replace retirements.
That's
Do you
right.
know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Is that what you're thinking, Donna?
Yep. Yep.
So do you get what I'm saying, Tim?
Yeah, depending on where you are at year 5, you could keep them, you could reduce numbers through attrition, through retirements, a number of different things could happen. And those two new employees could have already moved on. You can't force them to stay necessarily for any period of time. So those two new hires may be with you, may not be with you.
But they're still in the contract. They still have seniority, they still pay dues, they still do everything that they would have to, correct?
Yes, well, they're no longer obligated to pay dues, but yes, they would
that's right.
be.
That's right.
Yeah, they'd be subject to all the same terms and conditions of other sworn police officers in the bargaining unit.
All right, go ahead, Donna. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I was thinking.
No,
of
that's
that.
good. I'm just wondering, because one of the things that we have, I mean, first of all, it's going to take 18 months to even get one of these officers. And then what if they decide to go somewhere else? I mean, and we're paying for the training, right? Or is that coming out of the out of the grant?
Well, the grant is $250,000 for the whole 3 years, correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
and you can use grant funding. The grant does allow you, I believe the chief pays for, and the department pays for recruits while they are in the academy. The grant does allow you to use the funding toward that, or you could use the funding once they become sworn officers. I believe you have the option to do both.
So we're matching it with $187,000. So how does that work?
No,
out?
I don't think we really
With
are
it
though, and that's
almost-
what Jay, I don't think we really are, Donna, because when it was presented to us 2 weeks ago, the way I got it was we were getting this money every year. But now, but we have since looked at it, and it's $250 for the entire package. So our contribution will be more, but Jay had put that on his spreadsheet, and I'm gonna have Jay explain his numbers and see if everybody agrees with them. But
Nick, I'm just looking at page 6.
I'm looking at
and
page
it's-
1 that says that it's gonna cost the project title. Are you looking at that one?
number 1,
It says project title, entry level.
250,000. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
but
then,
that,
go ahead.
yeah, that doesn't work out with the numbers.
But it's talking about you have to match it with 185,983, which
It's
is
gonna be more.
42.60. That's on page 6. And
Yeah.
then the whole program comes to with their 250, and have to come up with, and that's, it can't be be in the budget. It has to come out from somewhere else, as I understand it, right?
No,
This
it has to
money,
come from
it
the
can't
budget,
come from the
right?
budget. Yeah. So it's 435,982.50. How does that work out?
But Tim, doesn't it have to come from the budget? It can't come from other resources?
It has to be local funds, local or state funds. However, when you really dig into the paperwork, you can use other federal funds. You cannot use federal COPS grant funds to fund the match if you had another grant and other grant money laying around. However, you can use other federal money, potentially COVID money or other federal money that you have. The grant documentation simply says that you need written permission from the COPS, the department that administers the COPS grant, and you need authorization from the funding agency that gave the federal funds. So you're not strictly limited to using local funds. They do use the term local funds. You can use federal funds provided you get permission to do so.
Right, so it's not guaranteed. You'd have to get permission from both agencies.
You do,
Right.
yes, and I'm not aware of either agency that you'd be dealing with having denied requests. And I know the chief and I are both in the process of contacting the agencies to ask that question. Well- And local funds could include if the chief found a private foundation that wanted to give us half the amount of money. I believe that could constitute local funds. What they really don't want you using other federal Right. COPS grants Right. or safer grants to do that. They use the term local funds, and this is a national grant. So fire departments receive their money locally in many different ways, and that could be one of them.
East
Donna,
Providence is using the opera money to hire people.
Yeah.
So I know that.
but that'll just be for those 3 years.
Correct.
Okay, but the fourth
Well-
year, we couldn't use any, the fourth year will come out of our budget. Unless we found another way to staff, to fund it.
To pay for it. I'm just concerned with more government growth and people complaining about their taxes. We had a 4% increase last year, and I don't know. We always have to look at what the public can afford. And I know, some of it's been, well, we can't afford not to do it. Well, it's a little bit difficult when people are having trouble putting food on the table that we're going to increase. If it was all paid for, but it is going to be taxpayer funded money, and the decrease in what the grant gives after a while becomes a tax burden, actually. I don't know, and I don't know what to say about some of the other departments that might want to grow, and then it becomes, financial burden, because once you add, it's very difficult to take away. I don't know. I'm very torn about this. I mean, I don't I don't think it's a bad program. It's a good program, but I don't know if we can bear the cost right now.
All right, Councilor Janick, did you have your hand up? You're on mute, Deb.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, I did miss the last meeting, but I did watch it, and I'm very thankful that I had time to weigh in on this. I am one of those, Donna, who feels we can't say we can't afford it. I think we need to find the funds for this. I think that what Sergeant LeDuc has started in our community, I think to grow that is something that we need. Listening to the speakers and listening to just some of the things that he's brought into town, and he's one person doing that around his full-time job. I think bringing in more of that into the community, it brings me back, and I've had this discussion with the chief. As a child, my milkman became our police officer, and when he drove into our neighborhood, the kids swarmed him. And it was, he was our hero. And to hear the woman who called in and say that the kids wanted the signature and, you know, the autograph of Sergeant LeDuc, that's what it's all about. She was a lady who had the police coming to her door. She was terrified. And he was the face who she saw. And he was a human face. He's a dad, he's a community member, and she became having a relationship with him that her kids started to have, that her neighbors started to have. And they weren't looking at the police as the bad guys coming to discipline us. They were people to help. The COVID pandemic has brought out the worst in people. People's mental health issues are skyrocketing. The drugs and alcohol issues. You know, I don't have to tell you, open up the newspaper, read the news, look at what's going on all over the country, all over the world. And there's a lot of violence, and a lot of it's related to mental health. It's related to polysubstance abuse. And we're sending our officers in, and I know that they're trained and they're educated and they're skilled, but they're not mental health workers and they're not social workers. And to be able to give them a little more added education, training, skills, to be able to bring that into our community, I think it's a question of where do we find the money to get this done? Because it's something that we need. I have received so many phone calls, so many emails, so many texts. We've received letters in common, all in support. I've not received one that said, this is too expensive, we can't do it. This is something I think that we need to pull it together and figure out how to get it done. And I think that I can speak for the chief. If we hit year 5, I'm hoping that we'll say we can never get rid of this. But if we're ever in the position that we have too many police officers, I don't know that I've ever heard we've ever been in that position, that there were just too many. So I think through retirement and attrition and whatever else happens, you know, I can't see we'd be, if I'm gonna roll the dice, I'm gonna think we're gonna have not enough, not too many. So my vote is, I think we need to figure it out. And if we can use any of our COVID money, the CARES money, whatever, to help close that gap, I think we need to be able to do that. And do that for our community and to do it for our police officers, because we're sending them out into some horrendous situations. So setting up something at Bourne Mill, great idea. But your head's in the sand if you think that Bourne Mill is the only place that has drug and alcohol problems, because mental illness and polysubstance abuse crosses every socioeconomic line. Cultural, gender, it crosses everything. And it's just the lower socioeconomic groups who don't have the resources or don't know where to get the resources to help. So it's a start. And I'll say that, I think it's a start, but I think that we need to do this. So that's my vote.
Sorry, I was muted. Councilor Edwards, I know that you put together a financial package, and just to give us some idea of the numbers, because they're much different than was first presented, and I'm not saying that I'm against this, or I just think we need to at least know exactly what this is gonna cost us.
Well, did everybody get what I sent out?
Yes,
So you should have got a cover sheet that's the methodology that I used, and then you got a colored spreadsheet. All right, so what I did was, well, it's pretty self-explanatory, and if anybody has any questions, they can ask, but I had to have a starting point, so I just picked the beginning of a contract year, which is coming up very shortly, and I figured, well, if we're very lucky, we might get one or two of these people into the academy at that time. And, you know, the dates I used are strictly arbitrary. And if you look at the first set of numbers in each column under each contractual year, at the bottom, you'll see the total, and that's for one officer, counting all the expenses that we incur associated with that hire. One of my predications was that a given officer would probably only use half the sick time. You know, some of these are assumptions. At the very top, you'll see a highlighted line across with some hourly and weekly figures in it. For the first 2 years, these are basically engraved in stone. They're contractual numbers. The benefit numbers I got from Mary Lou this morning. And things like FICA, you can just figure them out. That holds true across the board, except for the last two columns. That's a new contract that we have to negotiate with the police, and we have no clue what that's going to be. So I just arbitrarily assumed that 2% increase in salary might be a good starting point. I have no idea what happens with insurance. We all know how volatile that can be. So just for argument, I just flatlined them across the board. I didn't try to change them. At no time did I try to figure out promotions or any of that kind of thing that Chief Jones wants to do associated with this grant. So that's added expense that I did not include, but it's not a huge number. So then if you add up the totals for one officer multiply by 2, you come up with a figure before any grant payouts of $575,000 and change. Then I subtracted the $250,000 maximum grant allowance from that number, and I came up with 325 and change.
now Jay, is
That's
this over
for
the 3 years? That's the 3 years.
Yeah, let me continue. That is for 3 years. So the increase for the budget for any one of those 3 years will be approximately $142,000, give or take. The 4th year is the year that we incur the total obligation on our own without grant assistance. That year is $218,000 and change. So as I see it, the total obligation of the town for 4 years will be about $544,000 based on my methodology. So a little over $500,000. So that's what we got to look at. That's what we've got to fund, and that's what we've got to figure out. Do we want to fund it, and how will we fund it? And of course, the big fly in the ointment is during the entire grant period, 4 years, we don't have attrition. We have to plug in people to fill every one of those gaps. Year 5 is when we can start backfilling. So this is a 4-year obligation. And Chief Jones, I'm sorry if I didn't get this to you. I did it at the 11th hour, and I don't think I included your name, but I'll send it to you. I'm sorry.
Patrick, I was gonna say I'll send it to you right now if you want to see. Jay, could you send it to him right now?
I can't do it. You're asking me to get involved with technology. Are you
All right,
kidding?
I can do it,
I'll
Patrick.
send it to you. I'll send it to you.
Now, Chris can do it. Now my question to Chris is, yes, we can use the money that we're getting from the government, but so would you be asking us to use, so the first 3 years, if I understand this correctly, is somewhere in the ballpark of $320,000. So
That's
would you
true.
be asking that we take that?
I just sent it to the chief.
Thank you, Deb. I was
You're
gonna do it, but I couldn't get back quick. So Chris, what I'm asking you is, are you gonna recommend that we use the SAFER grant and reimburse this for the whole 3 years?
This isn't, first of all, this isn't Safer Grant.
Oh, I'm sorry.
This is COPS grant and it would be matched with American
No,
Recovery.
I didn't mean the SAFER grant. I meant the money that we're getting from the federal government. I'm fading a little bit.
Okay, so that's American Recovery monies.
Right.
So I would, but Jay's numbers, I have a little bit of dispute with because he did add sick and vacation time, which is part of their annual salary.
Right.
We
Oh,
don't.
is it? I didn't realize that.
Okay. So we would subtract how much from then?
That's about another 30 grand that comes off of that.
Okay,
And it was a vest at $300 a year that we
Yeah.
buy that once. It's good for 10 years. That's
Right.
another couple thousand maybe. I forget what that came out to. But so there are some minor tweaks in those numbers that need to be made. And yes, originally I did think that this was 125 per person per year for 3 years. The way I read it, obviously I was mistaken. So it is a little bit more of a nut than I originally anticipated, but you could also, probably consider whether or not you want to do both positions. You could do one position. There are a number of options on the table here. So
that's what one of my questions were. If we decided to start this program, could we do it with just one can we tell the grant people will take the reimbursement for one person?
So in all actuality, I think we originally intended to have one. Every other city in town got 125 grand. We got 250. I'm not sure why we got 250.
Well,
But-
because we asked for 2 in the grant.
We did, but we didn't expect to get. But, it is what it is. We could go back to the grant agency and ask them if we could reduce it to the 125. I don't think they would have an issue with it.
What I understand is, and everything Deb says I agree with, and you know how I feel about Sergeant Ledoux. And I do feel that he is very effective at what he's doing. And by giving him this position, gives him he gets to do it more often. And he gets to concentrate.
So Madam President, originally I was going to even go further and ask that when we get to the American Recovery monies, that we would consider carving some of that money to give to Newport County Mental Health to work with our police officers to deal with these mental health issues that we see across town.
Yeah.
But Patrick, would you consider just having one officer do this program? Or do you need the 2? Justify that for me.
Well, Madam President, I'm not one to look a gift horse in the mouth. I'll take whatever you give me and I'll make it work. We put in for the grant. So probably what I would do is if the council saw fit, and we'd have to petition back the COPS office. Tim can speak to that as well. The grant award, make no mistake, is for $250,000 for 2 officers. That's it. We would have to petition them back and say, would you consider or would you accept that we take half the award? That I'm sure would have to be a process that I'd have to come back to you with. But would we be able to make one work? The whole purpose and the premier focus is community policing. As you all know, we started this 4 years ago with Sergeant Ledoux. And he's been doing it, as you all know, on the job for free and with some compensation when we can give him compensation. So this would put him in that full-time position. The second part of it was the mental health aspect, which is where the detective came in. So that was kind of 2 prongs. So if the council wanted to only approve one of the officers, we'd go back, get permission from COPS, and I could come back and say, okay, we're good for the one. I don't think it's going to be that heavy of a lift. I'm not sure what the process is, and I don't know if agencies have done it. But I can double check on that.
Just is my thought, if this becomes very successful and we want to go on with this, it's not that much of a price tag later on. Like, it's going to be this huge price tag, especially that 4th year. But if this program becomes very successful, we love it, and I know it's going to.
Yes.
It might be less of a shock. The price might be less of a shock if we can say to the community, look, Sergeant Ledoux's been doing this full time now. Look at all the programs we've done. Look at all the different things we've done. It might justify us to say, now we want to put in someone else. Just my thought, because I do think that this warrants doing, but you know how people are, and their taxes just went up so high. I'm just a little worried about this. If we can fund this through the federal money, that would help. It's that 4th year I'm worried about. That's a big ticket item for the 4th year. And that's just my thought. I don't want anybody to misunderstand me that I don't think this program is worth it. I think this program is definitely worth it. I just am trying to make this more sellable to the community, I guess, is the way I want to put it. And show that it is successful. And that's
So,
my thoughts, but I'm gonna let Mike, I'm gonna go through all of you. Donna, I'll let you talk in a minute. I just want to go through Mike, and then I'll go to Bill and Joe. Mike.
I have nothing more to add than what I said last time, and to excuse me for 1 second. To echo Councilor Janick's comments, I couldn't say it as eloquently as she did in terms of the need. And certainly one of the selling points for me is that connection to behavioral health, mental health services. I think it's critical. And I know the chief had sent me, because he knows my background, some information also, and I know this grant doesn't necessarily get at it, but it speaks to it, the high rate of officer suicide across the country. Thankfully, we haven't been hit by that, but it doesn't mean our officers don't feel that on a daily basis, especially when they confront some more volatile people or get in a situation that they really don't want to have to do with somebody who's facing a mental health emergency, or maybe helping to remove their kids from their home. That's very traumatic for those officers, and anything we can do, I think, to help them, along with our firefighters, because the same with them. Certainly when they go out on a call with a traffic accident, you never know what they're going to run into and what they have to deal with, and that in and of itself speaks to the need. So I understand the fiscal concerns. It comes out to about, without Chris's permutations there, it comes out, and I know it's a higher amount in the back end, it comes out to about $136,000 a year. And that's not figuring out, using ARPA money or whatever for the exposure to us. So that's all.
All right. Jay, did you want to add anything else?
Me?
Yeah, I'm just.
No, I'll just reiterate. Well, I will reinforce what Mike and Deb had to say, and you too. I think this is a good program. All I was attempting to do was just to make sure everybody understood and could see what the cost might be. And it would give us a better idea of, okay, we know what that is now. How are we going to get there? And
Yeah,
there was quite a bit of confusion about how much money did the grant really give us, for how long, and what were our responsibilities? What was it going to be? So I think if everybody, 90% agrees with what I presented, then we're at that point.
Bill? Yeah.
Good evening, Chief. Good evening, everyone. Thank you to their opinions. I agree with everything. It's a tough situation to a certain extent. I just don't you put money on a situation like this. As a town councilor, I have to. But I support the two. If the one is a compromise, and I'm willing to do the one, but as of right now, the two, I support the chief's 5-year plan and I support the department. So it is somewhat expensive, but I think we can find the funds, even if Sergeant Leduc has to bring out the boot to the corner as he catches the people going to the highway at 8 o'clock and 4 o'clock, whatever needs to be done. But thank you, Madam President, and Jay for crunching the numbers and looking at a different perspective. But either way, I support the
money say, yes, we can use it. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. And both of you think that the chances of that is very good?
I do. I think that the Pandemic Recovery Office will undoubtedly allow us to use the American Recovery monies to match this. It's whether or not don't foresee that being a problem, because a lot of communities are backfilling police with COPS grants and matching them with some other source of revenue. And I'm assuming by and large, it's going to be through the American Recovery monies.
And Tim, I believe through my discussion with him today and just now, he thinks, and I'm not, like, if it doesn't happen, I'm not gonna, like, it's okay. But Tim also thinks that that's possible, correct, Tim?
It seems likely. Yes, I do agree with Chris on the American Recovery money. I would be surprised if they denied you the ability to use that. On the COP side, I don't know. I think it's likely, just looking anecdotally at other communities, the fact that they are doing it, assuming they got approval. So they could say no, but I think it's likely that they say
Right, and
yes.
I'm not gonna hold your hand to the fire, guys, if they turn around and say no, but
So I managed a number of justice grants with the Attorney General's office. Probably 35 to 40% of my staff was funded through federal grants through justice. And we utilized a lot of other grant funds and settlement funds, some federal forfeiture funds, and they never had an issue when we explained to them how we were matching those grants.
now you also have, and this is how I'm looking at it, apparently this COPS grant was, they are promoting this to be done in every community.
They're
So
trying to.
So if we say, yes, we're gonna do it, but we're gonna supplement it this way, I don't see them having too much of a problem with that because they really want this to happen.
Their issue really is going to boil down to if we were using other justice grants to match a justice grant.
Right.
That is a complete no-no. You're not allowed to do that.
All right, now I understand that. And this, the agenda item is discussion and possible vote on U.S. Department of Justice 250,000 police officer COP grants.
So
So
moved.
what we really are going to vote for to accept the grant, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Madam President, if I may, could you authorize the town administrator on your behalf to sign the agreement award for the Department of Justice COPS grant?
So moved.
Would you prefer I don't sign it? Is that what it is?
You know, it's just, you can sign it at just anyone. It just the chief executive officer, that's all that needs to sign it, whether it be you, ma'am, the town administrator, anybody. The only reason why I'm asking is because we're under the gun. We already extended it once. It just whomever you decide or choose to sign needs to sign.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. So I need a motion.
So moved. I'll make the motion. We apply
And
for
I'll
the grant.
second.
Wait a
And I'll
minute.
second.
Yeah, I want to hear. So the motion is to approve the grant,
250,000, right?
to accept it,
250,000 for
and
4
to
years.
have Chris sign the grant on our behalf.
Correct.
Second.
I'll second.
So the motion comes from Councilor Perry, seconded from Councilor Janick. Any further discussion from the rest of the council? Donna, you have your hand up, but I think it's from before, right?
Oh, God, I'm
No,
sorry.
no, it's all right. No, it's fine. It's just I don't want to ignore that. I
He's
keep
just
seeing that,
waving.
that little yellow hand waving at me. I just
And,
didn't
and
want to ignore it.
the only thing I'll say in just is, and I know that there are always naysayers and there's always people who complain, but I've not heard from one of them. And people think this is a good project. They think it's great. It's great for the community. And I don't know if they just hit me because I am like the Health and Human Services
No, I got them too.
guru,
Did
but
too.
I have not had anything negative. Everyone's saying, please support this. We need this.
Right. And I totally
Absolutely.
agree, Deb, but you know it is, not everyone watches us and not everyone's aware of it. And people
So they,
criticize
any of
after
the
the
hate mail can go to the president, please. Right?
Well, they can come to me.
They'll go to you. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I've got 24 of them myself, so.
All right, the motion's on the floor and seconded. All those in favor, Councilor Vieira,
Yes, and thank you, Chief.
Councilor Edwards,
Yes,
Councilor Burke,
Yes.
Councilor Janick,
Yes.
Councilor Perry,
Yes,
everybody move positions on me again. Councilor Cook,
Yes,
and I'm a yes.
Thank you all so much. Greatly appreciated.
thank you,
Thank you,
Chief.
Chief.
Thanks for putting up with us beating
No, I
it to
think it's
death. but-
important. I think
but we
it's
needed
very
to.
important that we got the information out.
My pleasure.
So,
Okay,
and thank you, Jay, for doing that spreadsheet. Thank God you're retired, because I couldn't find a moment to do that.
Well, I hope it was somewhat accurate.
Joe,
yeah, just a point of information. If you're looking for a $58,000, apply for dishwasher at the high school. There's another $58,000 there. How's that?
oh my God,
Jesus.
Joe.
she's
All right,
still trying to
so-
do dishes. Oh, God.
So the next
could-
one is,
You
We
can't
always
take a
need-
town job, Joe.
Denise, we could always renegotiate selling that island too. If we put maybe a
yeah,
palm. tree
ask for
on it.
$250,000. All
Yeah,
right, town administrator,
okay,
discussion
so,
and possible vote to move forward with applying for the SAFER grant.
so the SAFER grant is due on February 4th to apply for.
3 years. Now, I know there was a big brouhaha back in 2017 about a safer grant. Do these come up from time to time and can you piggyback them?
They come out every year.
Oh, every year.
Yes.
So what happens in 3 years? Could we reapply or would that require us to hire more people in 3 years?
I think we could reapply to extend what we have now.
Okay. And once you've hired these people, you have to maintain that level like the cops grant requires. You can't use them to backfill attrition. Because the purpose is to increase your department, correct?
That's exactly right. Yep.
Okay, I got it.
Right,
I
because.
don't want to have to do another spreadsheet.
You
No.
do not have to.
Oh,
We, the bottom line here is we have to do this anyway,
We will.
but we could always not hire them and pay overtime.
No.
I'm
have
just
to talk.
asking, so,
So you could,
Certainly an option.
but we are in a jam right now. With not having enough bodies to deal with when people are out sick, family medical, a vacation, we don't have enough bodies to cover when they're out. And that's why our overtime has been through the roof. It's not gonna get any better, and it's gonna, you're gonna burn these guys out.
all right.
Aren't we down
All
a
right.
certain number of people right now?
We're down 4 right now.
That's what I thought, 4. Okay.
all right, so Tim is here, and Tim is very familiar with the SAFER grant, and I'd like to let him leave if he can.
Sure.
And I had a discussion with Tim about this time around for the SAFER grant. I would just like Tim to tell his opinion on this and what the overtime looks like why we need to do this. Tim,
Yeah, the with the SAFER grant, I have not seen the application for this new one, but I have had discussions with the chief. I have had discussions with the town administrator, and I am
I do have overall familiarity with the grant process, especially in years past, but I know it has changed. The issue here in the town is the legislation, the state 42-hour legislation. So you were at a level of 56 hours. You went to a level of 48 hours where you currently are now. And the state is mandating that you go to 42 hours, meaning if a firefighter works over 42 hours, you have to pay overtime. So you're in a position where, as Denise said, as the council president said, one option that you can do is pay overtime. You can keep the numbers where they are and pay overtime. As the town administrator said, and the chief, there's already you're already down 4 bodies. That's just going to make it you down 8 bodies, and people are going to be working, quite a bit of overtime over and above what they are now. The other way to do it is to staff 4 bodies at least. You're running a minimum manning of 7. Is that correct, Chief?
That's correct.
Yep. Minimum manning of 7, and if you run 9 per shift, if you run 8 or 9 per shift, you have extra bodies to offset those absences that happen on a regular basis. So Councilor Edwards, when he ran his spreadsheet, he made an assumption of how much sick time is used. That number is usually between, call that number 20% or even 30% of the time somebody is out of the office when you account for, or out of the station, when you account for sick, personal, FMLA, military leave, jury duty leave, COVID, everything. 20% is a conservative number that you're out of the station, which means you need 1.2 people for every position just to fill the vacancies that are going to occur. With all of that said, if the government is going to give you the ability to pay, is going to pay the way fully for 1, 2, 3, 4 people, and you have to supply 1, 2, 3, 4 people, if you're not going to go the straight overtime route, then it seems to make sense here. It's different than, I think the situation is different than it was several years ago when the council was presented with it because of how it was being presented. As the town administrator said, there's a sort of a freight train coming at you with the legislation right now, and you are going to have to either pay the overtime or hire 4 bodies to fill the extra hours as a result of the state legislation. So if you can get the SAFER grant to pay for some of it, I think it makes sense. Assuming you would meet all of the requirements for the grant, just like with the COPS grant. Assuming the chief can satisfy everything that needs to be satisfied in the grant, from a purely economic standpoint, it makes sense.
Thank you. Any questions for Tim? Because I'm going to let him go.
Well, I'll mention one thing that hasn't been mentioned, and Chief Rivals can correct me if I'm wrong. Aren't you limited to how many hours you can work in a certain period of time? So even, you could run out of people to do the overtime because they've already worked too many hours.
No.
I believe there's a certain amount of hours. So in my
I don't know what the
opinion,
numbers are.
in my opinion, the firefighters should not be working over a certain amount for a safety reason,
Right.
over a certain amount of hours straight in a row. When we went to 56, we were working 48 hours straight. In my opinion, that's too long. Purely from a safety aspect, never mind what it does for the family at home, et cetera, et cetera. I have not seen any numbers that says that you should not work. You cannot work legally more than X amount of hours. I think that might be a question for Mr. Cavazza, but I've not seen those numbers. But from a strictly safety point, absolutely, there's a set limit that you should not work over.
And there is,
Tim, go ahead, Tim.
there is no number, like there is a number that the DOT puts out for truck drivers.
Right.
There is not a hard and fast number for department because every department varies with in terms of how many calls they get, how busy they are. The number in Providence is going to be different than the number in Little Compton. So
So it really boils down to what the chief thinks is in the interest of the department. So I defer to the chief on that.
And I just want to make it clear, and Tim, I think I'm the only one here that was in those negotiations. The firefighters chose that 48 hours in a row. They chose that schedule at the time,
Yep.
which I thought was absurd. But don't you remember, Tim, we gave them a lot of different options and they
Yeah,
chose
and
that way.
it is one of the prevailing schedules, especially across the West Coast.
Yeah,
If you
a
go up
lot
and
of
down.
people do that. I don't know why. I
Yeah,
couldn't do it.
it's a popular schedule because there are studies that are done on it, and are some safety aspects to it. But the reason why many fire departments choose it, it cuts down on the commuting time and it cuts down on your actual time. You jam a whole week's worth of work into 2 days, and then you have a little more time off. But it's certainly not for everybody. But it has its pros and its cons for sure. But the council president is correct that it was chosen by the fire department on at least 2 occasions.
We gave them so many options and that's the one they chose. Also, a lot of them have other jobs. So they felt that they could do their other job.
Not to mention the
work.
details.
Yes, correct.
Details.
Any other questions from the council? Donna, do you have your hand up?
Yes, I do.
All right, go ahead.
Should I take it down? So leave it up. Okay.
No, it's all right. Do you have a
Okay.
question?
I left it up before. It was continuous hand up. Anyway, well, firstly, like the fact that I don't have a copy of the SAFER grant, and even Tim doesn't have anything to look at, and I don't think that's very businesslike. We're talking money, adding more people in the middle, and July 1st, are we covered by our present collective bargaining agreement until we get a new one in place? Or because I thought it was a continuous contract until it never really expires. Thought it was came under evergreen or something.
The Councilor Cook, I can answer that question. That
Yeah.
legislation did not go into effect for the municipal firefighters. That legislation went into effect for certified teachers and for other municipal employees.
Okay, so July 1st, if I'm correct, the present collective bargaining agreement does not allow for overtime to 42 hours until we have something new in place. Am I wrong?
No, it does.
What if I can? I hopefully can explain that we have state legislation that went into effect that took effect a couple of years ago, but created a provision that allowed current collective bargaining agreements to run their course. So for the town of Tiverton, that legislation will kick in on July 1st. And it's not that you can't work more than 42 hours, but the time threshold for firefighters will be set at 42 hours, where previously firefighters were completely exempt from state overtime laws, and there was essentially a 53-hour threshold for under the Federal Fair Labor Standards Act.
Okay. Well, how are we to make a decision when I don't have anything to look at? And I just feel really uncomfortable with that. It might be the way to go, but just like we discovered with the COPS grant, you really need to crunch the numbers, and you have to look at everything, and you have to talk about everything because it's taxpayer money. I think I can't even say how it goes in year 2 or 3 or the first year. I'm just being told everything is covered. Well, that'll be great, but I don't even have anything to look at. I can't make a decision when I don't have anything to look at. And I can't help that there's a crunch because it's February 4th. We need to have like a special meeting. I don't have a problem with that. I just need someone to look at so I can ask intelligent questions and know what the heck I'm going to vote on.
So we're applying for the grant. We're not awarding the grant.
Yeah, but is there an
Yeah, but-
application? Well, is there a summary of,
I'll send you the notice for funding opportunity. You can read that.
but does that, we're not obligated?
No, it does not. I had this conversation with you before, Denise. We asked this. I went to every one of the open meetings about this. We had many discussions with the federal people, they tell me that there is nothing in writing that shows where they changed that there was a match.
Yeah, I know.
So what I-
How am I supposed to prove something that's not in a document?
Well-
It says it's 100% funded.
Well, I know, Chris, I know that, but they should be able to provide something that says it's 100%. I find that so bizarre.
Yeah.
I can hear someone's TV. Okay.
Not mine.
I'm not upset with you, Chris. What I'm saying is it's kind of bizarre that you haven't provided that for us.
Bruce,
So I personally called, I sat in on some of the same webinars as the administrator, and I personally called Washington twice to ask this question. Through that, I know in the past, it's been an issue about how long you get the SAFER grant for 3 years, then the town's required to fund the positions for 3 years. I tell them that this was gonna be but I asked if there was anything, I believe the administrator did too, during one of the webinars, if there was anything in writing that states that the town will not be obligated past the mark. And what they gave me was, you just have to tell them that it's not stated that they are obligated. So that's the best that he's like, I'm sorry, I know that's not a lot, sound good, but that's the best that we can tell you. So it doesn't anywhere that we as the town are required to support or keep those.
By omission,
Kinda.
we're not required.
Mike,
So I know I was having it beforehand. I did find the FEMA website with the NOFA, and I asked Joan or Chris to send it, and Joan did send it to folks. You can, look at what I'm looking at, which is funding availability. And on page 7 of that, 2 things that speak to what we're talking about now. One is maintenance of effort. No maintenance of effort or minimum budget requirement for the FY21 SAFER program. And I'm assuming we're into the FY21, even though we're in FY22.
It is an FY.
Okay.
Yeah, that's correct.
And then cost share or match. There is no cost share or position cost limit for the FY21 SAFER program. The award budget will not account for any voluntarily committed cost sharing or overmatch. So if we say we're going to cost share or overmatch, they don't care. The use of an overmatch is not given additional consideration when scoring applicants. And then there's this economic hardship because there is no minimum budget requirement, no cost share requirement, and no position cost limit. An economic hardship waiver is not necessary. Therefore, no economic hardship to this FY21 program. So that's about as clear and black and white as you're going to get it.
yeah, well, at least it's there.
That's very
I'm
good,
looking
Mike.
at it.
Thank you.
The other thing, and this just gets to why I also asked Brian this question, because these grants come up quickly. The application start date for this was January 3rd. So the notice of funding availability came out January 3rd, and it has to be in by 5 p.m. on February 4th.
Yep. Yeah, and we've talked about this. These SAFER grants are offered every year, and we know that. Anybody else?
I don't know. I haven't even a chance to read it because I have a time of 9:58 p.m. that I'm getting it. I don't think that's it. Okay, I don't like doing business like that. I don't like getting some at the last minute like this. I don't like it at all.
And if I may, Madam President, I understand that, Donna. At the same time, it's been very clear, I think, in the discussions we've had about staffing for the fire department since that legislation passed, which we did not I mean, I don't think the council at the time supported it. And certainly I wouldn't support it today if it were up for vote today, but it is what it is. And it's the city and town that has to live with it. We were lucky enough to have a contract that doesn't expire until this
Right.
July 1. But you know, what do they say? The chickens come home to roost or whatever. Well, they're coming home to roost in
Oh
a
my
few
God.
months, and we don't have choice. So it's we're gonna have to spend money, lose money, whether it's our local dollars or federal dollars. We have to spend money coming July 1.
Well, may I speak?
Yes.
I get that, Mike, but you should always read something before you go. I know that we're under the, that we're going to have to hire more. I understand that, but I'm kind of being told that the seat of my pants what it is, and I haven't even read anything.
No,
I
get
mean,
that.
it's just not a good way to do business. I would have liked to have had this sent out to me today. That's the only time they got it today or a couple of days ago, because I was like, well, where is it? I don't have any information. And read it and be knowledgeable and ask some questions. I'm being like fed the information instead of knowing what the information is and being prepared. I don't even know what to ask.
Madam President, may I offer a suggestion?
Yeah,
We have a meeting, I believe, scheduled for next Monday.
we do.
on- okay.
31st, right?
If we limit ourselves to an hour at the most on this discussion, I think we have to limit it and give folks the opportunity to talk, but still direct the chief, the administrator, to start putting an application together. They won't submit it, they'll put it together, and then that night we can decide whether or not to move forward.
I like that idea, Mike, and I was thinking the same thing, but
Me
is there
too.
something we can look at?
Well, I
So-
sent it, so you have a link to everything. Go ahead,
Okay,
Bruce,
so
I'm
then we
sorry.
can look at that. All right, as long as I did look at where you told me to look, but yeah, I think that probably would be the solution to make everybody a little more comfortable. I agree with Donna that I would like to have something before I approve it. And we saw what happened with the COP grant. There was a couple of things that we needed to get cleared up, and we might have questions about the safer grant once we read it. Is that okay with everybody if we table?
Oh, is that a
this?
motion?
Well, that's what I'm
Motion.
asking. Yes, Mike, you want to make the motion?
I'll motion to table action on the safer grant item until our meeting of January 31st.
Are we tabling or are we going to allow them to continue doing the paperwork?
And
Well, yeah,
direct,
they can
and direct the,
continue. They're doing it now. They're
I
doing
know.
it now.
Yeah, I cannot wait until the 31st. There's 14, 15, 16, 17 narratives that I have to write that I've been
No,
working
no,
on
continue
already.
writing it, Bruce. We just
Yeah.
want to look at it.
Mhm.
And I will send, I'm hesitant to send the application itself because as of right now, it's a blank application
Yeah. that's
that's
right.
very minimal. And when you click on certain things, it opens up more narratives and more narratives. So, I will certainly try to send it to you if you would like. I think that NOFO, the Notice of Funding Opportunity, hopefully will answer a lot of questions.
Yes.
If you have any specific questions right now, I can certainly try to answer them.
Yeah, I don't think Mike is saying in his motion.
No,
for you
go,
to
keep going.
Stop
keep
doing
going.
it at
Yeah,
all.
keep going.
And I can almost say that it will be passed, but we just wanted to read more about it. Deb, you had your hand up.
Well, we're just voting tonight to apply. We're not voting to accept it, correct? I mean,
Right.
applying doesn't make us responsible for it.
We
I
still
know,
have to get
but-
awarded the grant before we accept it.
Right, but
Right.
I think
right.
we need to look at it to see if we have any obligation. I know everybody's saying we don't. But I just have to tell you, Deb, my past experience is I would feel better if I read it. This didn't go very well last time. And I just want to make sure it goes well
Yeah.
this time.
So we
this-
have Mike's motion to proceed with filling out the application, but not sign it and not send it. And we're going to decide on January 31st at a special meeting to do that. Is that
Yes.
Mike's idea?
Yeah, so
If
everyone
that's the
feels
motion that
comfortable.
he made, I will second it.
Okay.
I have one more thing.
Wait
Uh,
a minute.
yep,
Go ahead.
I want-
Go ahead, Donna. What?
I'm sorry. I just
it's
want
all right.
Tim to be there to answer any questions if he reads it, because he said he hadn't looked it over.
I'm available on the 31st if you need me to attend.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
I have a motion on the floor in a second, and we'll vote and see what happens. All those in favor? Councilor Vieira,
Yes.
Councilor Edwards,
Yes.
Councilor Burke,
Yes.
Councilor Janick,
I'd really rather just do it now, but I guess, yes, table it.
Councilor Perry.
Yes.
Did I miss anybody? And I'm a yes.
Donna. Councilor Cook.
Donna, I'm sorry.
Oh, yes,
I'm fading. Okay.
I
thank
became
you.
Mike.
You're doing fine.
You guys switch around and I lose you. All right, thank you. And Joan, we can put that on the agenda, correct? We have time. Yeah, okay. Before I go any further, I want to
Thank you,
talk
everybody.
about-
Have a nice night.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you,
you,
Tim.
Tim.
Thank you
Thank
for
you,
that
Tim.
you're here.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I just want to go back to the selling of that property. It was brought to my attention just now, in the charter, section 24, transfer of town land. The transfer of any property rights in or ownership of any parcel of land owned by the town of Tiverton as of November 5th, 2008, except for parcels in the industrial park and transfers pursuant to general law, blah, 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 must be approved by the vote of the electors of the town of Tiverton, either at a town financial meeting, a town referendum, or referendum, it says, but I don't understand that.
Well, you can
We
do
could
it,
do it
you
at
can
the
ask for a
FTA.
special
Oh,
referendum.
that's right. Are you aware of that, Mike?
Now that
While
you
we
say
were-
it, I remember it.
Are you talking to Mike Marcello or?
Oh,
Mike?
oh, Mike Marcello.
Mike Marcello, because
Um,
we
So, yes,
voted to
during,
sell it,
yeah,
but
yeah. Well, that'll be something I'll have to talk to DEM about and see how they want it. That may change how we go about doing it. We might just assign our tax title to them and let them foreclose it, so they get it right directly from the owner.
all right, so you'll come back to us because.
I understand.
It's like in the
Yeah, I
charter.
think, but right now it's on our land, right? So
It is an.
I had offered to DEM to let them assign our tax title to them and let them foreclose upon it, and then they would own it.
Okay,
But they did not want to do that. But now this may change that analysis.
We basically have a tax lien, right?
Correct. But once we foreclose on that tax lien, it becomes ours.
Right.
We're allowed to assign a tax lien. And that's what most cities and towns do because they don't want to go through the expense of foreclosing on it. And DEM said, no, I think it's a staffing issue, frankly. DEM said, no, we'd rather you do it and you can transfer it to us. So I'll reach out to DEM and see how they want to handle it, given that charter provision.
okay, thank you. And thank you to the person that sent me this also. Okay, so we're gonna go back to F. Councilor Edwards, discussion and possible vote on proposed ordinance regarding establishing a town council policy for applying for grants. So everybody has that somewhere. Jay, would you like to speak on it?
I would. All right, so everybody's got a copy of this, and I want to make it very clear at the get-go. This is not designed to discourage anybody from looking for a grant. However, recent events and past events, numerous events, have occurred where grants were applied for. We find out about them at the last minute or not at all. And it just creates a lot of hate and discontent and confusion. So I wrote this out as steps that we might want to take. And I will read Mike brought up a couple of times, there are plenty of times when a grant is very short and quick. You only have a month. So I think I addressed that in here. When those events happen, we can circumvent some of this and grease the skids. But what this requires is that a grant seeker finds a grant, and his first step is going to be approach the town administrator with it and explain, okay, this is the grant, this is what it's going to cost, this is our obligations, and he in turn will look at it and use his knowledge to decide, does it want to go further? He knows things that the grant seeker may not. At that point, he's going to tell us he did it, but he could say, no, this is not a good idea at this time, or we're not going to do it. Or he can present it to us and say, I'd like to do this. Okay, we say, go ahead. Now what happens is the grant seeker does his due diligence, gets the package together, gets his documentation together, represents it to the town administrator, who will in turn, if needed, vet it with our town solicitor, with our treasurer, and whoever else, what other expertise he needs to make sure that all the dots, the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted, and we understand exactly what we're getting into. Present it to us again, and we'll make a decision. Are we going to move forward or not? In the case of like the SAFER grant, you're not going to have a lot of time to fool around with this. So we get a presentation. At that point, we could say to the town administrator, get it done. But I think we need to have, you all know I have a military background, and the military is structured, and you don't do any things that isn't in writing. So there's been a lot of contention about this, and we need to have something that is in writing that everybody follows, everybody understands each and every time. And I fully expect that, as I wrote it, that may not what flies, but at least we should talk about it.
We also, Mike wrote an ordinance that you have in front of you. The only thing, and this might address what Councilor Burk was talking about, if the town administrator reviews it, and he's going to review what it's, when a grant comes out, it tells you everything about it, and it tells you what the town has to pay, or if it doesn't have to pay. If the town administrator just presents that to us, I don't even know if we need to see the application. As long as he approves it, it's been vetted by the right people, then we can say, yes, go ahead and do it and do the application. So I'm not sure we need to see the application. We just need to know what it's about and say yes. Now, in some cases, these grants, yes, we're on a short period, but they already know they're looking at it. They already know they're considering it. If we just know it at the time they're considering it and say, yes, this looks like a good grant, we will take the obligation. And I don't know if we need to actually see the application. So it might be just that one step. And this is only grants that require the town to give something. You guys know what I'm talking about. I'm getting tired.
Well,
But,
yeah, if there's a financial
If
obligation.
there's a financial
or
obligation, thank you, Jay.
any other kind of obligation, for instance, you could get a grant. Let's take the landfill. They give you a grant to close the landfill, and part of it, and they say, well, we just want to give you $500,000, but then there's a but. We want you to hire a manager to manage the money.
Yes, so
Well,
that would
that's
be
an
a financial-
obligation.
That's a financial.
So,
obligation.
we need to, those kind of things need to be reviewed thoroughly.
And there is a provision in the charter that said that nobody can allocate funds but the town council.
Right.
So in a way, when you're applying for these grants and saying, yes, the town will meet their financial obligation, then that's obligating funds. We haven't done it yet, but we're going to, and we've told the grant people we're going to. So did everyone look at the ordinance? Do I need to read it?
No.
Mike wrote this ordinance. Would you like me to read it out loud? No, Mike saying no.
We're good.
All right, is there any comments? Any council want to say anything? Mike, go ahead.
I appreciate that there has to be a process. Certainly in my agency, if I saw a grant and I just applied for it, I'd be out on my ass pretty quickly. So that's a given. I do have concerns with how, and I appreciate Jay that this is the first crack at this. I have concerns about some of the meanings of, and Michael too, meanings of some of the language in the draft ordinance and in the accompanying, procedure in terms of, as in the first paragraph, it says, need to seek grant approval for any grant or similar program that obligates the town to devote funds, personnel, land, or other resource of any nature. So what does that mean about in-kind, volunteer, those types of things? Again, we've talked a lot about, and we've seen examples today of one grant that you had maybe 5 weeks, another 6 weeks to respond to. And oftentimes, even though they may be grants that come out very frequently, like the SAFER grant, the rules around them change annually, oftentimes. So you really have to know what the new RFP or notice of funding availability says before you really know what to come to us on. I agree that once that, whatever they call that document, because it changes depending on the type of agency you're working with, or the state or federal, either the NOFA or the RFP. Once the administrator and whoever is looking at this grant has that information, they should be able to come to us with a fairly high level PowerPoint presentation of what are what does it do, what do we need to do, what are the obligations now and in the future, those types of things. So that can happen. For us to approve every detail of every application, I don't hear anybody saying that, I think would be way overly cumbersome. Then in the supporting procedure, the second page, there is a typo in number 4. I think the second sentence should start with at instead of has, but I could be wrong. But anyway, again, timing on that. Number 5, this needs to give the council adequate time to do its own review. What does that really mean? For some, it might be a month. Somebody might want a month to do it. Others might want a day. So I think just coming to agreement on what that means. Then in the last, after number 7, that little piece where Jay, you talk about the flexibility, but there's no mechanism to decide who decides if, when, and where, what to relax. So I think if we're going to have that, it has to be spelled out as to how that process, that piece of the process works.
So I think tonight in the discussion at the agenda meeting, I don't know if you were still with us, Mike. I think what Mike Marcello proposed is that we look at the ordinance and the policy can be written after the ordinance. So tonight would be, because we have to go out for advertisement on this ordinance. So tonight would be, if we wanted to tweak this ordinance in any way and you just had a suggestion, and then just go out for advertisement on this ordinance. And then of course we can change it after the public hearing. I think the idea is do the majority of us want an ordinance that regulates the financial grants? And we can always tweak the ordinance as after the public hearing. Am I right, Mike Marcello? That's what and then the policy we can write afterwards. Like we can tweak the policy afterwards.
Yeah, the policy was just given, Council.
Just for some ideas.
Yeah, Councilman Edwards wrote that, and we tweaked it a little bit, but if you look at the ordinance, it gives the council the ability to make a policy. But we want to give you some idea. I think Councilman Burk makes a good point. Some of it, it could be a little. It's a little long. It could stop things when you have like a 3-week turnaround. I think that's what he's afraid of, and that's a legitimate concern. Getting back to Mike's comment about in kind, I would agree that in kind contributions or in kind labor or whatever would does require, would require, would not fall under subsection B, because that is a commitment made by the town, whether it's in kind or labor or whatever. So so that would not fall. So this last grant that you just approved for the Fogland, obviously that would not escape. That would not be under B, because you would. That's how I read it.
Right.
We could exclude that if you wanted to, but it's up to you. We could specifically exclude any in-kind contribution, but an in-kind contribution could be a bunch of gravel sitting at the DPW yard that they want to pour into the beach, right? So that's an in-kind contribution that obligates the town to do something that they maybe was used for something else. I don't know.
Well, but yeah, also if that in-kind contribution did not materialize or not to the degree that you expect, then that's a further obligation on the town.
Right.
Okay, so basically tonight's vote is to go out for advertisement. And then we
Right.
can, what?
Right. I'm sorry. Yes, that's yeah.
And then we, like every ordinance we've ever gone out for advertisement, the final draft is still in the future. After we hear public comment and after the councilors have a couple of weeks to sit and think about this. So I just want to entertain a vote to go out for advertisement for the ordinance related to the application of grants.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. Does anyone else want to say anything? Okay. All right. So all those in favor, Councilor Vieira,
Yes.
Councilor Edwards,
Yes.
Councilor Burk,
Yes.
Councilor Janick,
Yes.
Councilor Perry,
Yes.
Councilor Cook,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Thank you. So now we're gonna go all the way back to I believe. Forward to I. Tax assessor Roberts, tax collector McGowan, discussion and possible vote to approve the Vision Tax Administration and Collection Software upgrade from Vision Global Solutions.
Good evening, everyone. How are you?
Is he awake?
I know we can't. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I'm awake. So Tony Lynn and I, we're here before the town council to request approval to spend some monies on a software upgrade. Just to give you some background on the software, the current tax administration and collection software has been utilized by the town since 2001, so roughly 20 years. And over those years, the software has had several upgrades and patches and has served both our offices very well. It's a great piece of software that we ever have any issues with. So it's very stabilized. But a quick background on the software. It was originally developed back in 1994 by a company called Opal Technologies. They're a Rhode Island-based business, and that software was originally written in a software program called Visual Fox Pro. Visual Fox Pro, in all intents and purposes, is owned by Microsoft, or was owned by Microsoft, and they stopped supporting Fox Pro in 2015. So that's the reason for this significant upgrade. The Opal was eventually bought by Vision Technologies, and Vision Government Solutions, and they are in the process of rewriting that software. Many, I don't want to say many. When Opal first started their business here in Rhode Island, they had 3 employees. I think they got up to 6. Half of those employees are now currently with Vision, and they are the ones who are the key members of the software rewrite. One of the gentlemen I've known for many years, he's been with them for a long time, and he's the key person who is developing the software. The software has been developed and had several discussions with the state of Rhode Island. So they work very closely with the state of Rhode Island in developing the software to make sure that it fits Rhode Island parameters as far as the tax end of it is concerned. The tax administration software that we're coming before you has several main features. Two are significant for my office, and the rest I'll let Tony Lynn talk about. On the assessor side, the tax administration side keeps track of ownership of the properties, mailing addresses, their total assessments, personal exemptions, motor vehicle information and taxation, and business tangible accounts. The second component of that software is that's the software that calculates the tax rate and the levy. And then it exports a file to our printer to mail out the tax bills. It also processes the tax roll so we can print out the tax roll and have that printed. Every staff member in my office, including myself, utilizes that software every single day. So it's really the backbone of the office as far as the whole taxation and tax levy process is concerned. So that's the end on my side, and I will let Tony Lynn talk about software on her side.
Good evening. As the vision was developing this software, they met with the collectors in numerous different formats, and we gave input as to what we would like to see happen with the new software. And they really listened to a lot of our concerns, and the new software has capabilities that they were almost like a wish list, things that we hoped the software could do. And really excited to have the ability to do the things that we've always wished we could do. But the other software just couldn't be updated, and they just couldn't make it work. I mean, something as simple as emailing a taxpayer their summary of their account cannot be done on the old software. And it will be as simple as hitting a button, and all the email addresses that we've been storing in our old system will be right there, and we can, send summaries. I could go on and on. I tell the girls at work all the time, when we get the new software, you're going to be able to do this. And they just can't believe this stuff that the new software will be able to do that we just can't do at this point. It's been a long time coming, and it's just a necessary thing that we unfortunately, do have to do at this point. Right now, there are 23 communities that are using the new software. All are giving positive feedback. There's 15 communities and fire districts, not all municipalities, that are waiting. They're already in line, signed up in line. So this isn't even something that's going to happen tomorrow. We're hoping maybe in the fall, if we, sign on now and get the process moving. The other huge advantage to going with this upgrade is minimal operations, because we're already using their company. They already have our data, and the conversion will be much, much easier. And we'll actually only be down without a computer system for 2 days, which is huge, because if the server goes down or we're down a few hours, it's a huge inconvenience to the office. So 2 days is really, it will be a good thing to implement this whole process. Does anyone have any questions?
No questions, but I'm sure Deb will back me up on this. We've heard about this for several years, that this was going to be a problem, will be a problem, and that is now. We were always going to have to do this. Now it's here.
Yes.
Didn't we approve this someplace? Was it in the
I
budget?
thought we did. I don't know whether it got funded or whatever. I guess we approved it in principle.
I kept adding it to capital expenditures each year, and then it would, get pulled for whatever reason, but always with the understanding that when the time comes, it will need to be funded.
This is one of the gaming projects.
Right.
Say that again, Chris?
It was funded with the gaming monies.
That's what I thought. So
Yeah.
we've
So
already
the
said that.
issue is, do we go out to bid formally, or do we amend the contract to adopt a newer version of what we're running. So we don't have to go out to bid if we're gonna amend the contract to bring out a newer version on. This is an upgrade. It's not a new acquisition.
Ah,
So if we go out to bid, it's because we're going with a whole new product.
There's only 2 vendors out there. There is negative commentary about the other vendor right now that our staff do not believe it's prudent for us to go down the road of exploring a new opportunity, even though, I don't know what the cost would be unless we went out to bid, but I don't think it's viable for them to put themselves through the torture of having to implement a
Right.
system that they already know there are problems with.
Right. So this one, the conversion is like 2 days. Would be really nice if those were Saturday and Sunday, but I know that's probably not realistic. But
No, I doubt it.
what's the learning curve on it? Or is it going to be really easy because it's the same system?
It looks very different because it's Windows driven. However, the concepts are very similar. So the way we apply payments is similar. How it actually looks on a screen looks very different. They do provide training, and I'm confident in the staff that's in the office now that they'll pick it up quite quickly.
Good.
Yeah,
So the current system is totally unsupported.
no, I don't have any more.
There is no support for this current system.
Right. And so if it crashes, we're
And they've had issues in the last couple of weeks over it, so.
yeah. So
yes,
we
it
need to
will.
sooner rather than later. So this is how we
Yep.
monitor, collect our taxes. So, right, our revenue system.
Only
So,
get every inch out of it that we could. I mean,
yeah.
All right, so does someone want to make a motion?
I
has
make a
a few.
motion to approve the Vision
Donna?
Tax Administration and Collection software upgrade from Vision Global Solutions.
Second,
Where's this money coming from again?
Casino, we already obligated.
Yeah, we already obligated it.
From what money?
The
Casino.
casino money.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion or questions? All those in favor, Councilor Vieira,
I'm going to abstain.
Councilor Edwards,
Yes,
Councilor Burke,
Yes, although I just want to note for everybody from a parliamentary perspective, an abstention is actually a no vote.
It's not a yes, it's not a no.
It's a no, it's considered a no,
okay.
but anyway.
All right, point taken. Councilor Janick, did I
Yes.
ask you? Councilor
No.
Perry,
yes.
I'm a yes, and Councilor Cook,
No,
no. Okay, so it's 1 abstention, 5 yeses, and 1 no.
well, just think, people, we stopped kicking that can down the road.
All right, so the next one is town administrator discussion and possible vote regarding, oh, thank you, guys. Thank you,
Thank
David.
you.
Thank you
night,
very much.
Good night.
Good night. Thanks for waiting.
Town
Netflix.
administrator discussion and possible vote regarding the landfill closure project, award contract to J.H. Lynch and Sons, extend addendum to PAR Corporation to monitor the project, fund contingency based on projected costs and current budgeted amount. Chris?
the last meeting, town council meeting, we weren't allowed to award the contract because it wasn't worded properly. So now I'm asking you to award the contract based on the information provided. That would be one. We do need to have somebody oversee this contract. I will have PAR put something together. I just need an approval from you for them to put that concept together. You don't have to award that tonight. You just need to, move forward with trying to get them to get a concept together. And then
We did.
then
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Then we need to talk about contingencies.
Okay.
And
so
we
the
had
vote-
decided to pick the low bidder.
So, but we couldn't award it.
We
Yeah,
couldn't
but
award it though.
No, I just want to make the point that it was in fact the low bidder.
It
So,
was.
So the first vote is to award contract to J.H. Lynch and Sons Incorporated.
so moved.
We have a second.
Second.
Motion's been made and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, Councilor Vieira,
Yes.
Councilor Edwards,
Yes.
Councilor Burke,
Yes.
Councilor Janick,
yes,
Councilor Perry.
No,
No, okay.
no.
Councilor Cook,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Extended addendum to Park Corporation to manage monitoring project. Do we need a vote on that?
So
Yeah.
I just need a vote to move forward so I can have to put that concept together. You're not awarding that addendum tonight. You'll have to look at that contract once once
Okay.
it's done. But I don't see, they're the ones who worked with DM, put this thing together. They're the ones who redesigned it. It would be kind of awkward to have somebody else come in and oversee this project that really has no standing of what we've been going through and what the requirements are.
So what vote do you need? What does,
So that I can have PAR put a proposal together to amend their contract as an addendum to do the oversight of this landfill closure.
okay.
So moved.
Okay, do I have a
Second.
second?
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilor Perry, second by Councilor Edwards. Any further discussion? All those in favor, Councilor Vieira,
Yes.
Councilor Edwards,
Yes.
Councilor Burke,
Yes.
Councilor Janick,
yes,
Councilor Perry,
Yes.
Councilor Cook,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. And the next item, Chris, fund contingency. What do you
So
need
this is
there?
more of just a discussion item. The award for the contract will be 11.4 million. There is absolutely, the bidder did not put a contingency in this, and it would be foolhardy to move forward without any kind of contingency to set aside. And this goes towards, there is a piece of funding that is not available for this. As I talked to the infrastructure bank, I need to know what parameters we're looking at as far as borrowing or making available, either through line of credit or ever how we're gonna do this. I need to know what the top number is. So I would say we have a little bit of time to deal with this, but I would probably suggest that since the largest expenditure in this project is going to be the liner as a subcontract of about $5 million, that the actual work is another $6.4 million, that the contingency be based on the 6.4 million. I just don't know what percentage you want to use, and it's something you need to consider when we bring PAR back in to do the oversight of that, and come to some agreement as to what their contract would be. I think that would be a viable time to discuss how we're going to deal with this contingency. Right now, the award to J.H. Lynch is for the minimal, the low bid, but there is no contingency piece to it. And how are we going to manage this contingency? Are we going to add it to their contract? Or are we going to set it as a set aside and have it managed by PAR? So at some point, we need to figure out how we're going to do this contingency and how much you want to have it set aside. It's not something that needs to be decided tonight, but there are parameters you need to start to consider on your own as a council as to what you're going to be comfortable with.
Jay,
Chris, I understand what you're saying. I'm a little more nervous about material than you are, I guess, because with what's been going on, materials they're just skyrocketing. And now we're also talking about the liner, which is a geotextile fiber, which is petroleum based. You know, this can, I don't know. To me, I think we ought to have a contingency for the full nut.
So with the award being, if J.H. Lynch is awarded the contract tonight, they will immediately tell their subcontractor for the membrane to go out and order that product now. So that product will be ordered, and the current pricing for that will be pretty much stable. It's not going to go up. They'll order it and have the entire amount of it available for this project, and they know the time frame of this. So if they want to leverage their own funding as to how they want to manage that particular acquisition, that's their call, but they've factored that into the bid.
Okay.
So there should be a set price on what the membrane is going to be. And the quicker they can get it out and get it purchased, the quicker we'll know what that contingency is going to be, if there is any. I'd be highly doubt that there'll be any. And again, we can talk with PAR when I bring them in to talk about this during, the addendum to their contract for oversight as to what they believe. But, we need to have some thought process on a contingency. I don't believe this project's gonna go fully at 11.4 million without any kind of change order. It's just, I would be shocked.
Well, past experience, yeah, okay, I get your rationale there. And with the labor side, past experience, I mean, we've all seen state contracts. The one thing that kills them every time is gas and oil, and
Yep.
the estimate goes south very quickly.
So the only thing I was really looking for is the vote on the GH Lynch and the ability to move forward to have power put together a discussion or an addendum to the contract.
Okay,
Okay.
I'll move that we do that.
I'm not gonna ask.
Well, we did all that, right, Chris? You don't need anything
Yep,
else.
no, that's what I was looking for tonight.
Okay,
And I just, again, I'm reiterating that the contingency is something you really need to think about. And when PAR comes back and we award that addendum to their contract, I think it would be a great discussion point at that time to decide how much you want to set aside and how we want to manage that contingency.
all right. Thank you.
Okay.
Now, the next item, it says my name, but I think it's Councilor Burke's item. No, Mike?
Yeah, and I'm wondering if it makes sense to table this to our next regular meeting, not the special meeting, but our next regular.
Perfect. Okay.
Mike, I didn't get a chance to talk to you, but I think you were using an old version of the old ordinance because there was a section, at least section 1 that you missed, so. we'll talk about
Okay,
it.
yeah, it probably was. It's whatever I had on my computer, and I figured
Yeah,
you'd do the professional work on it.
yeah, thank you.
All right, so we'll table this
Yes.
until our next meeting. Do I have a vote on that?
Next regular meeting?
Next regular meeting?
A
Do I have a
motion?
vote on? Yeah, I need a
A
motion.
Motion to table to next regular meeting.
Second,
Have a second? Okay. Motion's been made in second. All those in favor, Councilor Vieira,
Yes.
Councilor Edwards,
yes.
Councilor Burke,
Yes.
Councilor Janick,
Yes,
Councilor Perry,
Yes.
Councilor Cook,
Yes,
and I'm a yes. All right, and we're not going to go into executive session. Is that correct, Mike?
That's correct.
That is not ready yet. It'll be ready for our next meeting.
Correct.
Okay, motion to adjourn.
Okay,
Second.
good.
That boy Joe.
Yeah, there's Joe. I didn't even
Well,
complete my sentence. I
It took me a little while because I was just finishing filling out the application for the dishwasher at the
All
high school.
right. Motion's been made and seconded.
Oh,
All those in
Jesus.
favor, Councilor Vieira,
Yes.
Councilor Edwards,
Yes.
Councilor Burke,
Yes.
Councilor Janick.
yes, and if you need a reference, Joe, I'm available.
All right, thank you, I do.
And no, I think Brenda will give him that reference.
No, she wants me to do dishes here. She don't want me to go
All right.
somewhere else.
Joe, that's
Councilor
gonna be a
Cook.
donation in kind,
Yeah,
Councilor Cook,
yes.
okay, and I'm a
and I'm a
yes.
yes, and I'm a yes.
Oh, and Joe, yeah, well, I'm sorry, you got me all. All
That's all
right,
right.
thank you, everyone.
Thank you
Thank you.
all.
Good day.
Bye.